Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Trees. I'm taking on three of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, and did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
You got to earn your liberation.
Yeah. What's up, world? Back at you right here. Another edition of Earn Your Liberation 52. Jared Ball, Geechee, y'all.
52, man. It's 52.
Oh, my bad. 52. My bad.
52. Yeah, we out there. There go that Devo guy.
Hey, there go. He got to show up. You know, he got to show up how he show up. There
you go. It's 52. Why you didn't bring the red glasses, bro? Where the red glasses at, bro?
Red glasses?
You got some red glasses too?
Do I?
I don't know. I thought you did.
Not that I know of.
Who knows?
You want to buy me some? I can send you my prescription.
Nah, bro, I ain't really got it like that. Hey, by the way, before we do this bid your hand, I saw a Goddess crew and them at the what you call that thing? The BAP get together, and I looked like they was trying to play spades.
Trying?
I mean, it didn't look like they know what they were doing. It looked like they were trying. So hopefully she'll come in here.
I'm helping with the BPM, the one of the first, I guess, BPM live events we're going to try to set up this year. And I am in touch with some folks in the DC area as of last night, even. Trying to figure out a way to get comfortable here, but we're going to see. That'll be a feature of that gathering for sure. I'm sorry I missed the BAP event, but
I like to win.
Oh no, that's all I do. So what's up, Sugar Booger? What's up, everybody? What's up?
Play though. Diallo just can't be out here lacking like that. We don't have to teach his brother.
Man, I ain't fooling with that mess.
Wait, first of all, it ain't mess. So that's what you ain't gonna do.
I'm an old dog. No new tricks for me.
That's the problem. All old dogs know how to play spades. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, brother.
That's wild to me that you.
I was raised in a Christian household. We didn't do cards.
I don't know, man.
We didn't
see. I didn't learn in my household either. I learned because all that was played in my household was Scrabble. So I had Scrabble. So I had to, yeah. But I had to, but being out in these tree-lined streets, you know what I mean? Yeah. I had to learn the ways of the streets. All right, hold on. Let me solo you out here. Here we go. Bid this hand. Oh no, there's a little bit of a glare. Let's see. There's one card to your right that's not. I can't see it. Yeah, let's see. We got pull back a little bit. There's a glare. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. Oh, this is nice. I'm gonna get 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna get at least 5. At least 5. I'm getting 5 off that. That's easy. So that's my half.
You count the ace and the queen and the heart?
I'm not counting the queens. I'm counting the ace, and then I'm counting the fact that I only have one club, plus I have big joker and a deuce, or at least a little joker and a deuce. And
I see 6.
And yeah, I was gonna say at least 5. That's what I said. And what I would have told my partner is I have my half. Like let's run this. let's run this right here. If you could pull your weight, we're gonna run it. I see Troy saying calling 6. I see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Zenzi saying 7.
7.
Zenzi, I don't know about that because you only got
She counting ghosts. She counting ghosts.
I mean, you only have the one club, but you're only going to get. It depends. It's hard to say. Calling out 7 is difficult.
You got the Joker. You got the Joker 2, and you probably can pull a king, the ace and the queen, and then 1 cup book in the club.
I don't count the queen though. Why? I wouldn't count the queen.
Listen, if you got an ace and a queen, you definitely gonna get in. Like, I mean, I don't know how you can't really get in with an ace and a queen.
Well, so I would have said at least 5. I probably would have, and depending on what my partner said, I would have easily bumped that up to 6. Because but 7 out the gate, Zenzi is,
Zenzi up, she up New York.
We'll see. So we'll see. So Zenzi, we could partner up. If you got game like that, you can sit across from me and we'll see what it is. We'll see what it is. Make some people go home mad that night.
The ghost counting. What's that 10 of diamonds running? What man they talk about, man? They don't know how to play. They don't know how to play spades in Ohio. I don't know about that.
I missed that one, So so just off the top, everybody, just so everybody's clear, I gotta leave early today. I gotta be out at 9 o'clock, a little before 9 o'clock, as I'm at this conference. And this structural racism and political economy conference, and it's kicking off this morning. And so I gotta run downstairs. Well, kicked off the reception and stuff kicked off last night, but I missed all of that, man. I can't be hanging out late like that, man.
We can start there then. Tell us about this. What's popping over there? Who out there? What type of environment it is?
Well, I mean, it's in a fly hotel, downtown DC, somewhere, again, the side of the city, the part of the city that I've rarely been in, that I don't, I mean, it's not that I'm in my streets, but there's still a version of DC that's not quite this bougie. But so it's a nice little spot. It's the Structural Violence, Race and Political Economy Symposium. And I shared a little bit of this yesterday. Professor Michael Ralph and Derek Hamilton. Professor Ralph's, I believe he's the chair now, Black Studies at Howard. And Derek Hamilton, who, again, I've been, some amazement at his willingness to have me around, but I'm also sort of blown away by this pamphlet. I think this is dope too.
Yeah.
So nice. This is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice pamphlet. I got a question and an assignment though.
Okay.
Which one you want first? Your question or your assignment?
You tell me.
I'm gonna give you the question first.
So
you in these spaces, and
Can I interrupt you real quick? I do apologize. This is one thing I wanted to highlight that I thought was very dope. So on the one hand, they got a shout out to Desailly and the Haitian Revolution, and then on the other page, the unofficial sponsor of BPM, they got the shout out to Uncle Nearest.
Oh yeah.
And at the reception tonight, they got Uncle Nearest base drinks. So. Yes, sir. But so shout out to the conference. You got Desailly and Uncle Nearest. You know what I'm saying? You can't go wrong. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What's it?
Nah. So you normally be in those spaces where maybe even people who understand economics, they might be a little bit liberal or whatever. But y'all talking research, activism, organizing. That's what it seemed like. But I guess you haven't experienced it yet, but like, how do you move in those spaces when people might not line up with you politically as it pertains to capitalism and imperialism? And then, so what are the benefits for being in those conferences? And then what do you feel like are limitations when you're in those spaces?
I mean, the obvious, well, so there's a couple things happening that I'll say for me personally, and I'll just be very honest. Some of it is curiosity. Some of it for me is I'm honored just to be invited. I even as I'm critical and sometimes even suspicious, not in this case per se, but I am, I'm usually honored to be invited and humbled to be invited. And when I enter these spaces, I enter more or less in the same way. I mean, I don't really change very much. My goal isn't to, for the most part, confront or be hostile. I just, keep it light, no puns intended, and just look to engage and hear people out, and then bring up disagreements. And I'm very explicit. I don't change any in terms of any explicit, projection of my ideas in politics or where I stand. And that's why I, to be perfectly honest, when I've been invited to places like this, it's often a one and done. I mean, I'm not often in these more elite academic spaces. And this isn't even the way for me to diss anybody. It's that, I mean, these people have put in a lot of work, and some of it that I'm familiar with is actually good work. So I'm not, but, and this is the sister that put it together, by the way, put all this together. So yeah, I mean, so then the other benefit to me, for me also personally, given my relationship with my university, is that in a way, I think it gives me some cover. It's a way for folks to be reminded that while I'm not necessarily appreciated in all the spaces at my institution, that's not how everybody in the world feels. So professionally, it's important to be involved. There's a professional value to these gatherings for me. It does go on the CV. It does go in the university, the annual faculty accomplishments or whatever they call it, the highlights and all that stuff that they want. So yeah, I mean, so personally and professionally, there's benefit. I do also like to hear what others have to say, even if they are to my political right. I can learn from research and put maybe a different interpretation, a frame on it, and bring it back to these spaces. So that's basically it.
So here's your assignment. So there's a link that I just sent, and I want you to pull that up. And I think it was Julie Orr, if that's her name. But there's the New School Museum of Capitalism. And I would definitely love for you to like engage them, or even if there's a session, kind of.
Is she here?
Yeah. And so this thing right here was interesting. Like you can kind of read the first paragraph, and then go down to one of the samples.
The Museum of, and this is you're saying comes out of Derek Hamilton's New School.
Yeah.
And okay, so the Museum of Capitalism, Communicability, Landlord-Tenant Relations in a Pandemic. When housing was a commodity in the capitalist economy of the 21st century United States, a person known as a tenant would pay money, often referred to as rent, to a landlord to use their property as a home. For landlords, investment in housing was not the only way to build wealth as property values increased, but also a way to generate ongoing income in the form of rent payments for tenants.
So check out, if you keep going down to one of the examples of what the landlords sent to their tenants about, like, yeah, I know it's going to be hard in the pandemic, but these people are hiring. Like,
let me see if I can. COVID-19 is terrible. However, it will pass. And in the meantime, rent is still due. As it is at every other apartment building or rental in New York City and Florida, owners still have to pay their bills, including mortgages, water, sewer, garbage, insurance, property taxes, salaries, etc. If you have been laid off from your job due to closures of non-essential businesses, there are still several places hiring. Grocery stores, Amazon, Walmart, Domino's Pizza, delivery drivers for food. Worst case scenario, file unemployment and you'll receive checks from unemployment.
Listen.
Additionally, the federal government is expected to be mailing out checks to everyone soon.
So me and Diallo got some assignments coming up. I got an assignment in Atlanta with the revolutionary term Black capitalist. Seemed like Diallo got his reparations joint. So this is your assignment. You need to go there engage them and come back and report to us. But Diallo, it seems like this thing is read in the future, right? Somebody's reading it back and said this is what's going on in this time. I think today people will be like, yeah, of course, landlords are good. But do you have hope in us that when somebody reads this in 20, I don't know, in the long future, would they be like, these people were crazy? What type of shit is this? Like, you think we would evolve by then?
I don't know about the timeline you're using, but I don't see this type of hierarchies in social relations on the decline personally. So I hope that that's the case. I hope a lot of things that we accept as normal today are alien, but it seems like we're regressing. I think we're going from tenants to serfs and peasants with the enthusiasm and encouragement of the peasants, of the working class, because the working class have regressive values, and people are abandoning ideology. You know, at the as in the mid 90s, there was the whole end of history and the end of ideology, with the no alternative to capitalism and capitalist social structures and relations. So it seems like we're regressing. You know, I could see a future where people are like, wow, those were the good old days where you could choose where you wanted to live, and you could earn money and sign a lease that was only a year, whereas people were peasants and serfs were tied to the land. I'm literally debating and arguing with people who have, where I don't even say it's a slave mentality, but a peasant mentality. And the royals or the hegemons are passed through birth. When Beyonce can come out and say, I've made enough money where my grandchildren and great grandchildren will be rich, and people are celebrating that. And so no, I think Beyonce's great grandkids are going to be, you know, the capitalist overlords of our great grandkids, or at least that's what they anticipate. So no.
Yeah. So
I see people are, long story short, people are going to see this as the good old days, because it's about to get mad worse.
So Jerry, I don't know if you know, as I did there, I let the Grinch go first, right? The negative Nancy, and come give us hope. What, like, you think, you know, people are gonna look at us and say these motherfuckers was crazy back in the days?
So you don't want me to be, you want me to take the optimist. So the optimist approach for me would be, if we want Diallo to be wrong, it's up to what we all do over the next 5, 10, 15 minutes even.
Claude Anderson said it's too late. He said we had up until 2020.
Good segue, Diallo.
No,
Good
he said
segue.
we had up until 2000. He said if we didn't give him enough money to open up his fish markets and leather hat stores, we're doomed. And we had up until, so we 23 years past the deadline. And
that's a good segue. That's a really good segue. Because
you know me.
No, with all the negative talk, like you know, you negative Nancy, but Jared is negative Nancy in Baltimore. You know, he's speaking the rhetoric that gives people hopelessness. He's negative, and Baltimore people got faith in their people, no matter what the odds are. And what's this beef you've been going on, Jared? It's been about 4 years now.
It's not entirely serious, but I don't have beef with anybody. People there has been this again, relative to me, influx of criticism of me without engaging the work, and a couple people we know. So I did hear Brother Jabari, shout out to Jabari, Soul Vibers Nation, Barbershop, and all of that. Watoto on the Nile. He did hit me up the other day after some Facebook back and forth, where again he's on there saying we coming for Jared in 2024. He's got the Claude Anderson pictures, Amos Wilson. He's saying I'm putting, you know, it's that Tory Russell kind of energy of we putting this to bed. This is a wrap this year. And I just posted, like, I was like, my man, you know, like, again, stop, you know, you act like you don't know me. We haven't built for years, that blah, 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 blah. So he called and he said, I misread it. He said it was more jokes than anything else. And I basically said, I don't see it that way, but I'm glad to hear that. It doesn't read that way. It doesn't convey that way. And it seems out of character given that we know each other.
I mean,
But
speaking of reading, I think we should kind of do like, I guess, school days of pulling people in front of the class and making them read in front of the class. Just and then also explain to us what.
well,
they're
that
reading.
was the funniest part though, Geechee, that you so the real part of it is that people may not understand is that you start all the beef because you know what Jabari also told me. And then he uses your government name. He don't even call you Geechee. He's over there using your government name. And when Geechee shows up at the barber shop, he be talking this Jared bullshit, and he be bringing your argument into the barber shop. So maybe he's not repping your argument properly. But what was funny to me is that you showed on the Facebook thing. So yeah, it's Geechee's fault, Diallo.
Yeah, you see Diallo. Hey, when you leave, let's let him leave too. When you leave,
but to your credit, when I leave in a minute, you can get it. But to your credit though, Diallo, what you show in those Facebook exchanges is that my man Jabari is saying, I just got the book, I just started the book, and I already hate the book. And it's like, I'm gonna keep reading, but I'd already, so it's like, my man, but you put this multiple moving picture commentary with Nas's ether behind it. You got all this, you do all of this, talk about we coming for Jared in 2024, and then you say, oh, I just got the book. So I'm like, again, methodologically, yo, you haven't even read it and you got all this. And by the way, you still, as we just saw, you still have my number. So yeah, but it's your fault.
Clear my name. First of all, this conversation been going for maybe 4 years now, and the debate is supposed to happen almost 4 years ago, and the book was been free for almost 4 years ago, and so just getting the book now is wild, and just starting it now is wild. He did have one of his barbers read the book, and one of his barbers was getting through the book, and they have no disagreements, right? So he was literally trying to find a fight. Now, again, what I'm saying was calling people to the front and making them read out loud is not to make fun of them, but just to kind of see what we're working with, see exactly where we're at in terms of understanding things. And then even so I've had maybe an hour or two long conversation with Dennis, and I told him he'd come on too. But the idea of how people are receiving you, they think your approach is wrong. I mean, he almost said you got a Diallo approach. That's what he almost told me. And I'm like, I don't know. I would
in the book
or in public, not necessarily book, but he said more so in public. I think he said he saw you say something like black businesses are the enemy or something like that. That's what he said I was at his spot. He was like, I said, I've never heard Jared say that, but can you send me a link or whatever? He was like, but so
how many thousands and hundreds of hours do I have to put on the internet talking about this? If I've made an error, there's ample opportunity for people to find that clip and turn it into a damn. I don't know where. So I've not ever said that. I've never said that. I said
I don't know how
Abram Harris
y'all just casually allowed Diallo approach to be an insult, and y'all run it. So you get accused of having a Diallo approach, and instead of saying, "Hey, that was what? Okay, I can live with that," you immediately start trying to debunk the fact.
I'm just saying that's what somebody in the audience.
That's what. Don't put it on them because y'all here just ran with that. Y'all
fair enough. Right on. You know what?
He said you got a Diallo approach, and you're like, "How dare he?" On site.
You're right. Look, Andy said I need a shirt that says methodologically, and I'm gonna get another shirt that says the Diallo approach.
Nah, y'all go off, man. I'm gonna just sit here like I'm gonna pretend like I'm not listening to y'all. Try to debunk the fact that you have a Diallo approach. Go ahead, though. Good luck with that.
You're right. Fair enough. Hey,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
See, he threw stones, and now he don't want the stones thrown back. That's what he said.
No,
see what I mean?
I didn't know. If somebody said, "Hey, you got a Jared approach," I wouldn't be insulted. I'd be like, "Oh, you think so? Thank you." Why is that inherently an insult?
I think it's more.
Right.
It wasn't an insult. It's more of because he used you catch more. What is it? Flies with honey.
With honey than vinegar.
Yeah.
But why would you want to catch flies? You catch
I
most
don't
flies
listen,
with
man.
shit.
Listen, bro.
You catch
Them
flies
analogies-
with shit. So
them
if he's out to
analogies
get
don't work.
flies, who the hell wants flies around? Gross.
But also, Jay, I think we talked about this before in
Catch
terms of
butterflies with flowers.
explaining like capital and all those other things. Like, so I think having a conversation with Dennis, but also having conversations this week, like I think we believe that people can explain and understand capitalism, and then businesses and entrepreneurs. I think people, we believe people know more than they actually know. Because like me and Dennis had a wild talking about this barbershop, building wealth, and all these other things. And I'm saying like what it take to build wealth and loans and loans of businesses. I don't think people have those type of conversations in a way where they understand that it's literally no way for 48 million people to all be entrepreneurs. Like you actually need the workers.
I mean, absolutely. That's been part of my point, that we don't need. Why is all the emphasis? And obviously, in a capitalist society, they want the owners of the economy, the business owners, the public policy capturers. They want to project this idea that they are better, and then we we grew up on the lyrics of even songs I like. Jay-Z said, you're just a customer. It's as if the customer is somehow inferior. And what we have to realize is the customer is as valuable in a capitalist consumer-based society in particular as anybody else, and from the wealth of their consumption as much as anybody else. And that would be, so again, my point isn't
now you're making a buying power argument.
What you say?
Huh?
No, I'm not.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least part of my argument there. That part of it. That's why I'm saying that so much of my own emphasis is on the messaging and the narrative. And if we look differently at the narrative, it's more easily seen. But you're right. People are encouraged to see, I need to be a boss.
I think that we have to agree that if we read history, or if we just embrace logic, the workers' uprisings, workers' rebellions, people's revolutions, it's just this whole entrepreneurial led progress in society, that progressive movements have been led by the working class, the masses, the agriculturalists, the farm workers, and the only entrepreneurial revolution I know of is the U.S. Revolutionary War that created a more obscene system than the one they fought against. George Washington, that he was an entrepreneurial or capitalist or proto-capitalist revolutionary. So we've seen when the upper classes, or even when the Protestant Revolution was also a bourgeois revolution, where the Protestants got behind that racist anti-Semite Martin Luther, because the merchant class wanted to fight against the oligarchs, against the monarchs. So when you have oligarchs going up against oligarchs, so even in the minute times in history where social change has been driven by the merchants, the entrepreneurs, the business class, the plantation owners, the bourgeoisie, when upheavals have been driven, they more often than not have imposed systems that were more obscene and more oppressive than the ones that they liberated people from. So I'm not with an entrepreneurial or business movement or entrepreneurial liberation or anything of that nature, because it never bodes well. They don't seek to liberate, they seek to replace.
So I know me and you had this we had this panel about capitalism before, and you made some statements about entrepreneurs that people kind of clutch their pearls. But what do you say to the person the black business owner who believe that they're creating a safe space for the community, although they're going to try to make money, right? But they're creating a space for people to meet and these other things. Like, how do you approach that? Because we even talked about cooperatives versus a sole owner, but What do you say to that Black business owner who feels that their business at all helps the community in some type of capacity?
I wouldn't debate them. Helping the community, providing service to the community, providing products to the community, that's all the well and good. But none of that's but the revolution or liberating the community is a different discussion. I don't deny what people do. There's some Black businesses here that, if they went belly up, I would, be greatly inconvenienced, because of the services that they provide. I prefer Black businesses, especially for certain products and services, because of the atmosphere that they create. And you know how we do. And so I am not in opposition to Black businesses, and I don't deny that even from the cultural and emotional and identity aspects of it, Black pride, Black solidarity, that's all
Right.
good. But then they always try to take it further than what it is.
Right.
And I don't even discourage teaching people how to engage in entrepreneurialism and all that mess. But my problem is when they flip that to say, hey, this is liberatory, this is a challenge to the infrastructure or the status quo of capitalism, this will somehow disrupts or undermines global white hegemony or white domination. It does none of that. And in fact, a lot of times it is adjacent to or a complement to the status quo.
So Jared, I don't know that you would have to defend yourself or clear up something that you didn't say, but could we like clear the air in terms of entrepreneurial being enemies? Have you ever said anything remotely close or could be taken into that context, you feel?
I mean, if taken out of context and misrepresented, it could be reframed that way, because I have said that the entrepreneurial and business plan as it's offered is not a solution. And I've quoted more recently the earlier work of Abram Harris, who pointed to the Black capitalist as the primary enemy, and then I quickly follow it up with I think he went too far. So again, so in short, no, that's not my argument. My argument is not that, but my argument is against those like Maggie Anderson, who continues to argue, as she did more recently and will again next month in February, that Black businesses were essential to the civil rights movement and Black liberation struggle, and played a leading role. And then she misrepresents Dr. King and so on and so on and so on. So that's where I disagree. And then people will use that disagreement to say, oh, well, then he's saying that Black businesses are the enemy. And I'm like, and that's not what I'm saying at all. And to Diallo's point, I agree. There are Black businesses that, by the way, I keep forgetting, we mentioned it here, Sweetie's Coffee. Speaking of Black women and Black businesses, I have been ordering a couple of my last few rounds have included a number of her products, and the dark roast is quite good. So I support Black businesses. Yeah.
And there's another thing that people are under the impression that
I'm sorry, Diallo. Of course, Ricky knows her. My bad. Of course, right on, Ricky. It's good coffee. Shout out to Sweetie. Sorry, Diallo.
No, there's another impression that people have is that competition, markets, exchange, innovation can't happen in absence of capitalism. There's been all this propaganda that capitalism is a driver of innovation, and competition, it strengthens. And if you eliminate capitalism, all these other things will go away. And that is an absolute myth. It's the same as the myth that religion gave humanity morality. And religion creates a limits on human behavior, human savagery, and human lust. It's these institutions, these oppressive and dysfunctional institutions, come and claim something that humans created, that the masses created, and then give credit over to these backwards institutions and these elites, or these hegemons within these institutions. So even if you want to innovate, you want to engage in markets, you want to create and sustain and expand something that drives you, that gets you off, you can do that in absence of capitalist exploitation. You can do that in absence of hoarding fiat. You know, you can do that in absence of exploitation of the people who do the labor to sustain or to create your idea. We can function without that. But the propaganda machine is so powerful where people are giving credit. Most capitalists, I don't even like the term calling most of these people capitalists, because being pro-capitalist doesn't necessarily make you capitalist.
That's also true.
Right.
And all that
That's
is, all that
another
is a
thing.
good
It's
point.
like supporting or loving capitalism means I support capitalism, therefore I am a capitalist.
It's the
Not a-
Horatio
you
Alger
are-
myth. They
Right.
think
You
they're
the
gonna beat it one
capital.
day.
You are the capital. You are the resource, you know? And it's like, I know it's old, but it's so appropriate. It's like a chicken being pro KFC or a cow being pro McDonald's.
So
Playing yourself.
another thing the brother was trying to explain, that you came at his ancestors and his leaders, right? And so you're attacking Claude Anderson, you're attacking Amos Wilson, you're doing all these other things, right? And so two questions. One, kind of speak to even with another, strong leader that might have used buying power. But
look,
on top of that, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
this idea of myth, right? So I assume that when people utilize myth in community or in conversation and storytelling, it's more so of like an analogy to explain something or to inspire something or evoke something. And I wonder if there's, again, we probably had this conversation before, there's an argument around like, yeah, it might not be true, but it helps Black people do this thing. So, but yeah, go ahead and speak to kind of those two things, idea of the myth, and then.
So the first part of it is, if people actually read the work, my point is that the propaganda and the messaging and the misunderstanding is just so strong that a lot of people across the political spectrum, including some of my favorites, have misunderstood at various times the argument. It is not attacking them, it's not dissing them, and it's not exploring the broader aspects of their work and their argument. So, from Du Bois to Garvey, from Malcolm to Farrakhan, from Boyce Watkins to Julian Malveaux to, and in this most recent just passing case, even Mumia. It is who I consider a living superhero. And I've said the only person I've seen not ever be wrong on this in terms of luminaries was George Jackson. This is not to diss anybody, and it is with extreme humility that I've been trying to raise this for so long, that I don't feel comfortable with some of what I've found in the exploration of this history, and including the relationship of the Black press. But the realities are what they are. So I've not attacked anybody. I've just sought to explain why they've humbly, in this one area, made a mistake. So I want to show here, I'm not going to play the clip because I couldn't find it real quick, and it's just so passingly referenced in the, oh man, now I can't find where it's passingly referenced in this episode of Mark Lamont Hill's The Classroom in the Cell with Mumia, where they're talking about the Claudine Gay affair, as they title it. And it's just two quick points that I even put a comment here saying another dope episode, but there's no $1 trillion Black people have any wealth producing control over, and 2 HBCUs today are more likely to crush the next Du Bois than produce or support one. Because in the context of talking about Claudine Gay and where Black intellectuals are vis-a-vis institutions, white or otherwise, where the Black economic condition is, Mumia does say, just quickly in passing, there's $1 trillion that go through our community, and something to the effect more could be done to strengthen ourselves. And then they also make the point, he and Mark, that Black intellectuals like Claudine Gay, and they have an interesting discussion about this, because Mumia argues that we should be defending and concerned about these bougie intellectuals in these spaces. And he makes somewhat of a compelling argument. I probably have to go back and listen again and fully grab it. But the point I'm getting at is that they in passing make these references and then say, both sort of conclude, well, maybe Black intellectuals should go to HBCUs and rekindle sort of the Fisk tradition with Du Bois. And that's where and again, it's a broader conversation. Mumia, of course, is a superhero, and this is not me attacking him or Mark. It's just simply saying in those two quick passing remarks, I thought, in terms of buying power, the mythology took hold again. And in terms of my own similar argument around the mythology of HBCUs, that sort of kicked in. So I just wanted to, but that's sort of my point, that without, as brilliant as Mumia is, as much as he understands about capitalism and the economy, the prevalence of this mythology. So just quickly, for instance, $1 trillion, quote unquote, passing through a community does not mean that there's $1 trillion that Black people can do with what we want with. It does not mean it can be invested in any way that we want. It does not mean it can be marshaled and pulled.
Oh, listen, Jared, you're not gonna be here, but when we get to Umar, we're gonna get into some numbers when we get to Umar's statement. But
and just to preface that, that's sort of how these things get misunderstood. The numbers that get thrown around that Umar makes reference to, Black people spend billions on hair and billions on this. Where those numbers are coming from are these surveys of segments of consumers. And then what they're conveying is not an ability of people who are often spending on credit, who are often spending in small aggregated amounts. It does not mean that they could spend it anywhere else. It does not mean that they would be able to take control over these sectors of the economy, whether it be shoes, hair, certainly not major manufacturing and construction and so on and so forth. So like that's what is often misunderstood. And then it gets turned into, as I do argue in the book, that it blames Black people and poor people for their poverty. And then Umar in that clip that you're going to play later is doing the same thing. Black people don't want this, and Black people don't do that. And it's like, it totally bastardizes the situation and the relationship. So,
I mean, me more so last week, I'm accused of the sister who video we looked at not watching the whole video. If I watched the whole video, I would understand what she was saying. You guys got accused for it too. Like, y'all shouldn't even be talking about it because y'all didn't watch it. Again, I think the arguments, and I don't know what you think about this, Diallo, but the arguments that are being said is not much of what we're talking about and what we got wrong about what they said. Is more so that you are engaging this person in bad faith because you didn't read all of the work or you didn't listen to all of the video. And I don't know, and you joked about this one time where like you can look at a couple pages of the book and know what it's about. But when you make strong statements and the title of your video is something, or the title of your book is something, and then several strong statements that are all in line, I'm not sure, and again, maybe you disagree, Diallo, I'm not sure that you literally need to engage all 700 pages of the book or all 4 hours of the video when you can see what the argument is. How you feel about that, Diallo?
I mean, for me, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I do think that if you're going to engage a segment, you have to acknowledge the segment that you're engaging. You can't engage a segment but critique the whole body. So I have no issue with and I think that you can accurately engage a paragraph, a statement, a point of view, but you need to, when you're doing that, articulate that as Jared showed, where he was talking about his criticisms and his blasphemy against Saint Amos and he said, I'm talking about this, but he's not attacking his body of work or any text or ideological position, just this particular conclusion or this particular proposal that he's doing. So yeah, I think that can be done and done in a just and solid way if you acknowledge that.
Yeah, I just want.
I nitpick all the time.
If we're doing if we're doing like a show or we're talking about it here briefly, I would acknowledge how much or how little I've read. For instance, I got a lot of criticism when people misunderstood what I was raising in terms of other people's criticisms around Gerald Horne, and I acknowledge I hadn't read every word of that book. And people were like, you haven't read it? And I was like, I'm not performing the criticism, first of all. And I've read, and when I'm saying, and I'm just trying to be honest, when I've read, 300 pages of a 500-page book, that's not reading every page, but that's not being totally unaware of what the book is arguing, just as an example. But at the same time, I would not write an actual criticism, and I would not produce, say, a video criticizing an actual argument if I've not read the entire thing. So I've admitted when I've said, look, I've read the intro, even when we had Finkelstein here, I said we had made a pre-agreed arrangement, but I had said, look, I read the outro, the intro, the outro. I read the chapters you said I should read and more, actually, in the Finkelstein case. And I just raised a specific argument. Now, if I was going to actually sit down to pen a critique or to do like a real critique, like what we did with the Marable book back in the day, which was 600 some pages, got to read every page, got to read every word at least once. So that's what I'm saying about some of what I'm seeing in response to me and others. Like the methodology is flawed and people are just not being honest about how much they have or have not engaged the work. So,
well, I guess since both of y'all here, I want to get y'all thoughts on this. So there was a post that I put up and I shared it with y'all. And it was I punked out. Oh, okay.
Oh, did I say that? Oh, I thought I was muted.
I mean, I knew I actually anticipate that would be your. So two things. I anticipate that will be your response. But then the other thing is the reason why sometimes I can't really explain things on here because you normally cut in with shit like that, and it threw me off. By the way, so normally your fault. But anyway, no. So there was this. See, mute will help. That'll help. Jared always mute when other people talk. I mean, I think his etiquette is on fleek. But so 19 Keys is invited out with another sister who hate all three of our guts and probably blocked all three of us. And they're on a platform together. And both of them have, well, he's a grifter, right? Nancy, he's a grifter. I wouldn't say she's a grifter, but she's definitely reactionary and liberal as shit. And, I don't know. But they have this flyer about organizing. And then they also have like Bayard Rustin next to actual revolutionaries on the flyer. And I'm like, whoa, this is a lot. And I did go through it. Now I go through it. And I was saying basically like, if this is where our youth are at, we in trouble. Like we got a lot of work to do. That was like the tone of the comments. And I posted on Facebook and Instagram. And, Black reached out to me and told me like he pretty much was in a relation with that organization and some of those young people. So he got me in contact with another brother and we had a principal conversation. And immediately I'm thinking like, well, what do you need? You need me to take the post down or whatever. And so we talked out and he pretty much explained how the decision is not fully on him. He agrees with the critique and he doesn't want those people on the platform, but he also can't make that decision. It's like majority rule or some type of democratic process. And for the sake of which he was saying that like I could possibly build with those people because most people critique young people but don't engage and build with them. And I'm like, well, we can build, we can connect. It doesn't take away from what I said, but we can build and connect. So I don't know. I mean, obviously I hear what Diallo says, but how do y'all feel about that situation, especially as it pertains to, because one of the things he said, like, I didn't engage the organization's full body of work. And I'm like, well, I looked at it enough to know that these are the contradictions that I'm talking about. But every time I see something, I can't go to every organization and dive into it, which I often do sometimes. But again, I think it's still the same sentiment of like taking something out of context. But I'm like, is it out of context? Because like it is, and the event is already on, right? Because if he's on a flyer, I can't call you because one of the things they said, like you should have reached out to them. And I'm like, I don't know if I could just reach out to somebody who I don't know and the event is already on. So anyway, y'all can ask questions, but any thoughts around that? Well,
first, I just want to be clear. Why is Diallo saying you punked out? And what was the first of all, the sister Zakiya who you're talking about there, she if I'm not mistaken, I was her first interview when she started her podcast. And what ends and it quickly devolved when she and the white woman she was working with around crypto and blockchain or something like that, and had some analysis that they said I failed to reach. They just became very hostile very quickly. And it was like, so I'm not even clear where we disagree or what you're clear about what I'm saying, but I'm wondering why we went so fast from, and the white woman ended up sending me some email like, you're just I mean, she was accusing me of all kinds of neo-fascist something. I mean, it was weird. I was just like, so I was like, what is going, so yeah, I blocked them. But what exactly, and why so you took down the exchange because you felt you were out of place by not doing enough of an investigation?
No, I took down the posts, right? The exchange was a conversation that we had pretty much explaining his position and why. And I'm like, well, will it help you for me to take down the post? Because again, it's young people. And I think the overall tone is like, they're young and they're, inexperienced. And I guess this post would either sever opportunity for us to build further, or I doubt it we make them feel some type of way. But the thing is, I had a conversation with him, and then off the strength of 2 Black and us, 3 being in the conversation, I'm like, if this is what you need, it's not mandatory that I have this post up, right? I could take it down. It doesn't change the fact of how I feel about it, and I still would engage them with the same type of tone. And I guess Diallo saying I'm punked out or sell out by taking the post down, but I mean, that's kind of how I expect.
But I could see if I posted something that offended somebody and somebody like a 2 Black contacted me, if I understand what you're saying, and said if I understand what you're saying, and said to me, you might be upsetting some other relationships, we should investigate this for blah blah blah. I could see taking that down.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that. But I might also say that I don't agree that my post is causing the problem, because the fact that if you are engaging with 19 keys and all of that, even under the guise of I'm trying to do some good, it suggests to me you're not interested in building with me in the first place, and me and my crew weren't invited. But I get it. I'm not mad at showing some solidarity. Like if I'm cool with somebody, and I could see, but go ahead, Diallo. Go ahead.
And I'm actually a couple people, a couple people inboxed me like, "Yo, I was trying to go back on the post," and I'm like, And
I do need to run downstairs, so I'm gonna be listening, and I'll catch up with everybody later. So, but peace to you too, and to everybody in the chat, and I'll see you all next week, and of course tomorrow back on with Renee. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the show. So I gotta dip a little early.
Yeah.
But, all right, peace, everybody.
Appreciate you. Have fun. Do your homework.
Yeah,
I mean your assignment. I meant.
Yeah, my assignment. Right, I got my assignment. All right.
Go ahead, Nancy. Negative Nancy.
Well, first thing I would ask, was the assessment inaccurate?
I don't think so, and they don't think so, and no, it wasn't. I mean, I feel that.
That would be the only way that I would take something down. I've been approached about in this way many a times, and the first thing I say, well, can you point out the holes, the flaws, the inaccuracies, or any contradictions in anything I put here or anything I said? No, but it hurts my feelings, or it's going to make things more difficult or uncomfortable. So be it. I think anything that can be disrupted or destroyed or weakened by accurate, sincere critique should be destroyed by accurate, sincere critique. So if the person came on and said, oh no, 19 Keys is not a budding cult leader, and no, we're not promoting fallacies and economic hoodoo and trickle down economics, you are wrong in that. Then not only would I take it down, I acknowledge I wouldn't just take something down, I would replace it. If I say something wrong, I would take it down and then post what is accurate. I would say, oh no, this ain't this is that.
Right.
Or if someone came on and correct me, I'd boost what they said. I wouldn't even have to say, well, here's the right thing if I was wrong, which I've done before. And people's like, oh, no, dude, that ain't the thing. This is the thing. And then I just be like, oh, dude said this is the thing. But no, I don't get down like that. like the Diallo approach or whatever y'all call it, as a insult.
No, I mean, I feel it. I think, again, for me, it's more so of the idea of like we having a conversation. It's not going. One, I don't think the post hurt anybody, and
It's
as
not a
it is-
conversation. It's a conflict.
What you mean? It's not a conversation.
It's a divergence. What they were advocating. Now I don't know because the post is gone. So I'm just I'm trying to go off of my weekend memory because I can't pull it up. You punked out. But whatever the post said, these are people that are advocating something that is diametrically opposed to your stance and your advocacy.
So what I'm saying is, for me, it's more so of like, if we having a conversation around something and something, if you tell me this can help you and I respect you or respect the people in the space, then yeah, I'm a like it's not like what the post doesn't do anything positive.
Oh, right. I forgot
personally.
about that. Y'all taught me that technique. Before you go in on somebody, you say whom I respect or with all due respect, and then you proceed to disrespect them. I forgot. So you got played by your own technique. Brother Geechee, I respect you. Now take that down. Shut the fuck up.
No,
He came to you like Snoop from The Wire. Motherfucker need to shut the fuck up. Yeah, you got shut down, censored.
Okay. Anyway,
Dang,
so
if you okay.
So this brother,
I just don't know how you can sit there and say my assessment and my critique was accurate. And it's something that was necessary to articulate to the community or to my community or to my followers. But because this other person says, no, I don't want this assessment or this criticism out there, you took it down. I'm about to scroll your pages and see anything I don't like.
So here's the thing though, right?
And I'm gonna tell you to take it down, and you better.
Tell me when you finish.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so here's the main objective is, one, to correct wrong ideas, but two, maybe engage those young people in more radical politics. So if there's something that I could do to prevent me from being problematic to those people or prevent those people from hearing me, I would adjust. It's not like I would have to say I disagree with this or this is wrong, but it's like if this thing, again, I think this is what we talk about. If this thing is offending you, this type of language is offending you, and I'm trying to build with you, then I would change the language or I would adjust the language.
You didn't adjust the language or change the language. You deleted the language.
Well, what I'm saying is on a post, that's kind of like a language, right? So for instance, like, and again, I don't even know, maybe they already saw the post and they still won't engage. So that's a possibility.
Why didn't you reword if you think it wasn't about the language?
Well, I don't think there was nothing to reword.
No, yeah. I don't want to dwell in a movement. I don't want to dwell in a community. I don't want to dwell in a culture where critique, where criticisms, where deconstructing, where assessments and evaluations are not embraced. Right. I think the moment anybody makes themselves a public figure individual, once an organization makes an announcement or assessment, I think that they should expect people to dissect it and to articulate any type of holes or issues they have with it, as much as they expect people to praise their efforts or praise. I think praise a community, and we have a lot of fucking cheerleaders and a whole lot of woo and cheering on people, and everybody says, listen, and I think it's an issue of racial esteem, really. I think this is another low racial esteem is really bad, is as bad as menticide. So anybody who's going to step up and say, I'm going to transform Black folks, I'm going to do this for Black folks, you need to go under the microscope. You need to go under the scalpel. I think anybody that's going to be out front of us and anybody that is opposed to being critiqued or saying we shouldn't, this dirty laundry shit has never worked for us.
Right.
You know, being afraid to air out dirty laundry. What happens when you fail to air out dirty laundry? It gets festers. It gets mildewed and it gets worse. What else are you going to do besides wash it, strain it, and air it out? Right. So literally, that's a good thing. Air that shit out. So, but that's me. And like people want to get mad, but like I said, as Dale Jones said, It's criticism with affection. It comes from a place of love. It comes
Yeah.
from a sincere place of wanting to make a positive contribution to our people's just aspiration. So I would tell you, brother to brother, if somebody came to me, and I've had people I respect, mentors, teachers come to me and like, bro, and I say, well, where is the inaccuracy?
No, I get it. I think methods and things happen, right? So yeah, I think the other approach doesn't make it less effective for whoever. I think it really just depends. And in that way, again, if I can gauge them,
It's not about being more or less effective. You were neutralized.
I think it is. I think it is about being
that's
effective.
Neutralization. To delete something completely is a neutralization. And I think if to me, public statements need to be addressed publicly. If somebody makes a public statement and I'm gonna slide into your DMs, why not go into the comment sections or come face to face? If I'm saying something publicly, engage me about it publicly.
So I've had that argument with Charlemagne. I agree. Like if there's something that happens,
right?
Like yeah.
So I mean, because if it's something I support, it's something I embrace, and I see somebody targeting something that I support, I'm not going to secretly be like, what? I'm going to say, hey, I support this. I embrace this. I am advocate for this. And I'm going to say that publicly if somebody said this is some bullshit publicly. But I just don't, I think these type of things are, and I know people don't agree with me, and people want to play footsies with all these problematic cult leaders wait.
But I think if you pay attention, well, I don't know if you will, but if you pay attention to how you represent the other person, right? So for instance, if you were conflating this to me playing footsies with a 19 keys, that's the problem.
I don't think you're playing footsies with 19 keys. I think 2 Black and other people that are willing to go public and stand shoulder to shoulder with this emerging cult leader are playing footsies with him, and then they don't want to publicly say, I support 19 keys, though. Want to go in the DMs and secretly support him or advocate for or defend him, but won't defend him publicly. Defend the dude publicly. Don't defend him in the DM. Don't go to somebody's DMs and say, hey, man, you got something publicly that you said about critical of 19 keys. You said something publicly about 19 keys, but I'm going to secretly come to you and defend him and tell you to take something down, as opposed to going publicly and go to the comment section and say, hey, you should take this down. Because if I'm going to defend somebody, I'm going to do it publicly. If somebody says something about you or Derek,
Diallo, I think what you be hearing is not what's happening. None of them brothers was defending 19 keys at all. So this has nothing to do with defending 19 keys. It's more so about the young people who are organizing the event, whom they are invested in. It has nothing to do with 19 keys. They have their disagreements and whatever with those people about 19 keys, about the sister. So again, I think that's what happens. Like whenever you repeat something, not repeat back. Whenever you respond to something, you like start throwing all type of shit everywhere and be like, and like nobody even said that. Nobody said that they was defending that guy at all. Literally, I started off about the kids and go ahead.
It was an image of 19 keys and Zakiya, right? And about what they were promoting.
It was about the event. It was about I'm gonna answer. It was about the event that they were.
You should share the post. You should share the post. And you say it's nothing about 19 keys, but if somebody
I didn't say it was nothing. I said the conversation and the situation is about the young people who are organizing the event. That's
I understand that. I understand to say these young people put hard work into platforming this individual. What was the hard work they did?
What was hard work? Who said something about hard work?
That the young people, you say, like, these young people put in this work to do this thing, and here you are tearing down, and you're going to discourage or whatever these young activists because they did this work, and now here you are defaming it, right?
Not necessarily defaming. I think it's the criticism of the young people, as opposed to the criticism of 19 keys. You criticize the young
people, though, did you?
Well, what I said was, if this is what our young people are bringing to us or dealing with, we're in trouble and we got a lot of work to do. So it's more so of like
taking ownership. And you said that because
because they are platforming this person.
This
in this
person,
type of
who's that person?
19. I mean, you know, we already talked about 19 keys. Like you
But
trying
it
to
has
be
nothing to
funny.
do with 19 keys. You're right. Okay.
That's why I want to move on, because you just repeat. I never said it has nothing. I'm talking about the conflict. It's nothing to do with him. He's going to do his grifting thing. The conflict between these people and you saying they're defending 19 keys, and I'm telling you that has nothing to do with him.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. But again, I don't know if you are able to hear those things other than trying to respond to something else. But let's move on to this the brother OG. So apparently Jared knows the guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him. But do you know this brother who wrote this book, Jeffrey Ogbar?
No. Yeah, I just heard about it when you sent me the link.
So I mean, Jared said he was on a platform, and they have an event coming up in Atlanta that I would go by or go to, right? But he went from that to no, he's now there in terms of talking about black capital, but he started out talking about like the black radical politics. I'm gonna play a little clip. Black radical politics, hip hop revolution. But he also are kind of more in line with Pernell Joseph, who had his I guess issues, or Jared had his issues with him. But yeah, let me play this right quick. Let's see if I can go back to it.
A senior caregiver can be a huge help with running errands and preparing meals. But one thing
My name is Jeffrey Obona Green Ogbar, also known as Jeffrey OG Ogbar. I'm a professor of history at the University of Connecticut in Storrs. I was born in Los Angeles, born in Chicago, but raised in LA. So when I tell people I'm originally from Los Angeles, I have to qualify that with my birth in the Windy City. My family came to Chicago in stages, and I'm a historian, and I'm familiar with the macro history of movement, and my family falls pretty in a very cliche way into some of those patterns. My father's side came up from Louisiana in the early 20th century, actually before the Great Migration, and settled in the south side of Chicago, which is the only part where Black people could live in the city. They could not buy homes in Marquette or Cicero or other places. And they were they were part of a small but growing group of African Americans in the city. And in the 1940s, my mother's side came to Chicago, and they came from Mississippi.
So I don't even want to finish, but so there's this thing, right, where I think Jared is talking about how people who could be liberal who are retelling history. But I wonder if you said you don't know, but I wonder how you feel about, like, I guess, misrepresentations of our ancestors or people, or even the Black Power movement. Because even in the book, I sent you the radical book, but and even with James Smalls, we talked about this before, but I'm not comparing this guy to James Smalls at all. But the idea of talking radical and then switching to capital, right? Even with the Jared beef with the brothers from Baltimore, one of the statements they made was Fred Hampton was young. He could have evolved, and maybe he could have been a Black capitalist. And they said this because Fred Jr. supports them, right? That's what the brother who do the events. He said, Fred Jr. supports me. And because Fred Jr. support me, I know his father would be supporting what we're doing. And he died young. He could have been blah, blah, blah. And so do you believe that, people, because I guess I have this feeling of like sometimes when people are in radical spaces, that don't mean they believe it. And so when they switch, is it that they never actually believed the stuff over there, or it was, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think that as far as historical figures, and us projecting onto them is not appropriate. I think regardless of what Fred Hampton woulda, coulda, or should have been, We know who he was, and who he was, that's his legacy. It's locked in. And I don't think of it because we do that in both ways, because we can criticize them for doing it, but we do that quite a bit on the left too. This person lived a life as a revolutionary, a socialist, and advocated for revolution and socialism, but they could have been a capitalist if they had lived. And I think that's absurd. It's inappropriate, and it's just not. It's fan fiction. But also, when somebody's been a scumbag their whole life, and then when they something happens to them and we rally around them, or if they lived a little longer, they would have been Malcolm X. They always like to superimpose the Malcolm X story when a predator or a reactionary goes down, and we some reason want to have affection for them, like some of these rappers that expire too soon, and then we want to project on them some type of revolutionary awakening. So I think on both sides, that's just fan fiction, unnecessary and inappropriate. I think when you're gone, and what you left behind is what you left behind. And I don't really think there's any value in speculating when especially someone with Fred Hampton, who was pretty prolific in his short life, in articulating his positions and making his commitments and affiliations. We don't need to speculate. We have enough facts and data to go off of, where we can have a concrete assessment of who he was, and who he was is his legacy.
But again, I think, and we talked about this before too, like, do you think it's even with Amos, do you think it's a speculation to be able to take his work, understand how he moved, and even see his contradictions, and because of how he moved when he was here, you think we shouldn't you think we shouldn't be like, well, he probably would have come to this conclusion, or he would have, I'm sure he wouldn't disagree with this based off of what he wrote, because you're using his own work.
I think that is scummy, because what you're doing is not really trying to assess that person, but you're trying to exploit their legacy for your own ends.
Right.
You're trying to exploit their legacy for your own ends. Martin Luther King, one thing that was always Kwame Ture always said about Martin Luther King is he didn't attack people. He had some fundamental disagreements, and people were calling him names. Malcolm X called him, grouped him in with the handkerchief heads. And one thing about King was, he always, was mindful about how he spoke, and never spoke ill of his opponents within the movement publicly, and things of that nature. And then here I come on the air. It's like, if Martin Luther King wasn't assassinated, he'd be calling people out and calling people Uncle Tom handkerchief heads. And I'm going to pretend that Malcolm X would have the Diallo approach in order to tie myself to his legacy. It's not because I really believe this is what he would have done or wouldn't have done. It's because I want to try to springboard. So I want to promote capitalism in the Black community. And I want to use Fred Hampton's legacy, the standard he set, his greatness, to bolster my position. Right. So it's literally grave robbing. It's a despicable act. It's a really despicable act. So no, I would not say, or even if there's a lot of people that I look up to that had some problematic positions. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say, well, I look up to this person, Dale Jones, and if Dale Jones had lived longer, he would have changed his position to that position. Yeah. If that's the position he died with, that was his position forever. So, and that should be a message to everybody. Don't wait to stop being scummy. Join the revolution right now. So we don't have to speculate that if you had lived longer, you would have stood up and stood for something beyond self-enrichment or other petty things.
So this speaks to earlier, right? So I haven't read Brother OG's book. I will go to his event. So far, I watch an interview and it doesn't seem compelling to me. I will go to an event before I buy the book. But again, if I look at this book, right, I look at the interview and I listen to his book talk, am I okay with being able to critique his work and being able to say, like, yo, this is his conclusion, this is where he's leading to, and I don't have to engage that book too?
No, I don't. I totally, if I sit there and says, hey, if Fred Hampton died young, and if he had lived longer, he would have come down to earth. He'd have been more practical, and he would have embraced capitalism. If I say that, and you know nothing else about me, you've never read anything, that statement is enough is enough. And a lot of these critique stopping, kind of akin to thought stopping techniques, to say, well, there's so much more. There's so much more that you need to know. And I think that is not necessarily a something where people want people to have a greater understanding, a more in-depth understanding. I think that's just a way to deflect criticisms or condemnations.
No, I feel that. So in the book, not in the book, I'm sorry, in the conversations, he pretty much talk about how because of the majority Black cities and or states, right? For instance, they talk about how Texas has the most Black people, the state with the most Black people, right? And they have like 3 million Black people, and this is why they have the potential to be a strong state. And then DC falls number 2, that small District of Columbia, because they have, majority of Black people there. And then so the book is more so about Atlanta and proving that Black people have capital based off of what, Atlanta has looked like. And so he starts to brag about 75% of the teachers in Atlanta are Black. Now, what he don't do is talk about, like, for instance, they talk about HBCUs and how powerful HBCUs are. But literally, like, you can go into any search tab and see that most of these schools are underfunded. Like here, and they talk about like Georgia HBCUs filing lawsuit to accuse the state and university system of underfunding. And again, I haven't read the book, but I'm speculating that he doesn't engage with public policy and or understand that even our HBCUs are actually controlled by the state and the current economic system. Yeah. And so again, the argument, I don't know if I would have to read the book to make the argument if that's what he's clearly saying in his interviews about his book, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You're completely right about HBCUs not being powerful for a myriad of reasons. But I would also like to say, because a lot of times when people advocate something or present a vision for something, I'd like to follow it and say, well, what if this person succeeds? What if what they advocate for actually comes to fruition? Let's just say the HBCUs had full funding. Or let's say the ADOS were finally made white, where the Black people, the Black citizens of descendants of slaves, had full citizenships and economic parity with the whites. Like, what would that world look like? So even with full funding, let's say they had funding on par with white institutions, what would that look like? What would such a world look like? So anyway, yeah, but again, it's prosperity politics. And you were just talking earlier about hope and faith earlier in the show. And I think, just this ethereal hope and faith and where you were talking about optimism and visions for the future. So, and you couple that, I have this great future ahead of us. And where Jared mentioned before he left, victim blaming, like our own inappropriate behavior is the cause of our poverty, where Dr. Claude Anderson literally had an essay years ago called Inappropriate Behavior, a Roadblock to Development. Like our inappropriate behavior coupled with this vision of the future. And what's funny about that is that path from, aligning and all of us pulling our $1 trillion of buying power to some type of prosperity, it leaves the dominant institutions intact. It doesn't target capitalism. It doesn't target white hegemony. It doesn't target global imperialism. It doesn't target ecosystem collapse. So much of the prosperity that these type of people, prosperity politics people be pushing, Black capital and Black metropolis, going to a Black metropolis, or going to find a massing heap of Black folks and get us all to pull our resources together for economic prosperity. It leaves most of the hierarchies and oppressive institutions completely unscathed and untouched, which is why a lot of times they get corporate funding or mainstream endorsement for their liberation agendas.
So speaking of liberation agendas, and so maybe some of these things you're gonna agree with Umar on. So Umar is on this platform with this guy named Bigger. Again, I'm thinking that because the Charleston White and Cam went viral, the interviews, and then you see the Cat Williams and Shannon. Cat Williams go to Willie D and get interviewed on the same thing. You have Stephen A talking about Jason Whitlock. And so there's interviews and online beefs or whatever.
Who's Jason Whitlock?
Jason Whitlock is the one sportscaster who sounds like he a far right winger. And
is he black?
Yeah, he's a black guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
Stephen A is supposed to be beefing with him now. But Umar said a whole bunch of stuff that I felt like is going to take us through this thing of like looking into this idea of black people spending money wrong, right? And I'm gonna even go to the report that he used, which he lied about. But let's. But again, what I was about to say is like, so this guy is a big time. I don't know what type of Christian he is, but you know, he's
money. He look like money.
I mean, he got a bunch of money. Look like
money.
He got gold chairs and
damn.
shit like that. But let's play a little clip of this and then
he couldn't have gave Umar something to wear. No, I had a friend that used to be draping back in the day when I was in high school, and I'd be like, man, give me a chain or two. He'd be like, let's kick it. Let's go to the Red Door. Let's go to Swope and cruise up and down Swope Park. And I'm like, you got like 8 chains on, and here I am bare-chested. He could have passed Umar a chain or two.
Man, Umar got
it. Umar ran a crown.
Who they are and where they come from. Why do I want a white woman teaching my daughter Fannie Lou Hamer? Why do I want a white woman teaching my daughter Ida B. Wells? Why do I want a white woman teaching my daughter Mary McLeod Bethune? Why do I want a white woman teaching my daughter Queen Mother Harriet Tubman? Why do I want a white man teaching my son the Honorable Marcus Garvey? Why do I want a white man teaching my son the Honorable Nat Turner? Why do I want a white man teaching my son Bishop Henry McNeil Turner? They have no business interpreting our racial experience to our children. That's our job. Now, last time I checked, we have an explosion in African studies programs at HBCUs and PWIs, right?
Yes.
So if you got thousands of black people with a PhD in African studies, why the hell they can't teach the kids? You know why? They want to get paid. Negroes are selfish and Negroes are greedy, and we don't want to do nothing for ourselves unless the white man paying for it. The reason the world doesn't feel sorry for American blacks is we got enough money to change our whole reality. But guess what? We more concerned with looking good and outdoing the next Negro as opposed to cooperating with each other so we can all do better. We're the only race who doesn't weaponize our money.
And away we go.
Oh man, what the fuck?
We're gonna take on the Continental every free
to benefit ourselves. Mexican dollar is weaponized for Mexican people. Chinese dollar is weaponized for Chinese people. The Jewish dollar is weaponized for Jewish people. The Arab dollar is weaponized for Arab people. When is the last time the black dollar been weaponized? It ain't never been weaponized. Why you think you don't get no respect when you go out and vote? Next November, they're expecting us to go and vote for old crusty Biden or old crusty Trump. Neither one of them are going to do anything for black folks, and they don't have to. You want to know why? Because we haven't weaponized our dollars or our votes along a black community agenda, forced them to follow it in exchange for the vote. We voting as Democrats. We voting as Republicans. We not.
Yeah, so I don't want, yeah, we can stop there. So
first of all,
go ahead.
Don't sit on no silk fabric, gold encrusted couch talking about black people wasting money. The first thing you should have done is flipped over that couch and snatched that crown and ran up the block and pawned it. Sell it off and get the homeless a hot breakfast. Man, God is God. But go on, man. I don't know why. Dr. Fubar, man. You muted.
I was about to say, I think Umar is a case study for black people, and we need to take our self seriously on how we engage him and what he say and how we respond to what he say. I mean, again, I know FD was on here the other day, and FD admitted he said, you know, I'm an entertainer, right?
I thought he's supposed to come back.
He will come back. But Umar haven't yet said that he's an entertainer, right? And Umar also have not said, I don't know if he said this, but you remember on Khalid Muhammad says, well, I guess Donahue asked him, like, are you an entertainer? And he said, my people are about inspiration and information. So he will play a little bit with the inspiration, but he give information. I don't even think Umar went as far as says that, but he's definitely somebody who's who I don't see how we are still taken seriously. So he puts this idea of we don't, weaponize our money. And then he begins to start talking about how we are spending our money. And at one point, he literally says that Black people are spending $41 million on children's cologne, right? Which even a report says $4 million, not $41 million. So he just wildly said that thing. Now, when you go through this report, you see a lot of products that are not where Black people spend the most of their money, which is housing, healthcare, and all these other things. So even if you break down those numbers, right? It's real quick. It's 48 million Black people in the US. If you took that $4 million child cologne joint, that's Black people spending 8 cents each. Each person spending 8 cents on cologne. And this is December, this 52 weeks up to December the 30th, 2017. This is a report that he's going off of. And again, when you look at the food, Black people spend $3.06 a year. Each Black person, all 48 million Black people, they spend $3.06 a year on the food, each person. And again, most of the money that they're spending, because he talked about this idea of like we're wasting our disposable income, but most of the money that Black people are getting are literally going to rent, healthcare, and those other things. I'm gonna pull up another report to kind of show where they spend. But go ahead.
There's never been any economic transformation where people come together and pull our resources. None of the positive change or none of the concessions African people have been able to secure from the systems and institutions of global white hegemony have been as a result of us all getting together to spend more wisely. Our value and power comes as a result of cooperative ideology and cooperative action, not cooperative consumption. Right. And that's something that they want to. And again, most of these people that condemn Black people for spending habits or don't want Black people to stop spending, they just want to get in that pipeline of Black spending. They want to tap into that resources. So they're not necessarily liberators of Black people. They're competitors with the Asians. They want to compete and surpass people who exploit our community as opposed to defeat them. Right. And that's what I think we miss. Umar is like, we spend money on nonsense instead of giving it to me. And you're sitting in the church, you're sitting next to a reverend. And when Umar came here, the last 2 or 3 times he's come to Chicago to pull up, $35 a head. It costs more to go see him, to go see Wise Intelligent. I paid like half to go see Public Enemy perform than Umar was charging to sit there and spew utter nonsense. And 9 times out of 10, he's in a church. One time he spoke at a Black museum here, Dusabo. Shout out to Dusabo Museum. But most of the time he's at a church. And what's a bigger squanderer of Black dollars? What's a bigger black hole for Black resources? Time, mainly. I'd rather the church take the money. If I could get back anything from the church, it wouldn't be the fiat. It would be the mental and physical labor that Africans put into that bullshit. But allow me to say, they never touch on what really brought us power, what really secured concessions for us, which is our collective organizing and ideology, not our dollars.
Mm-hmm. So this is Brother Chris segue into the comment that I want to make and how I see Umar, right? Umar can say, he can lie about the numbers or misquote the numbers, because 41 million versus
no better. Bless his heart.
But listen, 41 million is different than 4 million. But anyway, when you break down the numbers, it doesn't make sense. But what does make sense about what Umar says, what does draw people? So Brother Chris, this is the first thing I was going to bring up. He will say, one thing he said, homeschooling is not a solution. It's just a temporary fix, right? And he talked about what about the curriculums? And then he say stuff like white people shouldn't be teaching our kids. Like, so these are the things that black people hear and gravitate towards. Like, again, I don't know what else Brother Chris comment, but out of all the things that Umar would say, Brother Chris will focus on that, as well as most black people, and why they kind of follow these people is because they're saying things that we agree with it or we are emotionally connected to. And so they can lie to us about all the other stuff because, yeah, man, he it is true. He probably shouldn't be teaching, white people shouldn't be teaching our kids Black history. But even that, are you more concerned about?
Who does his children go to? Umar's children.
I don't know. I don't even know if Umar got kids. But what I'm saying is, even that, like, I don't know if we can get past the idea of, like, it's not as much as who is teaching history about whoever. I think it's more so what they're teaching. Because as you know, Black people can teach about Black people and still botch it. Like we said,
he's miseducating Black people about Black people.
I mean, pretty much.
And that we the only people fallacy that a lot of demagogues promote, that Black people are uniquely pathological, that there's somehow some type of inherent or unique dysfunction that African people have that other people don't have. Whereas he mentioned where you racists calling Arab people Arabs, goddamn, calling Asian people, and just calling Asian people as if Asia isn't, a massive continent and region that has everything from Chinese, Japanese, Indian, Mongol, like Asian people, and he listing all these ethnic group or racial groups. And saying that, well, they've weaponized their dollar, not acknowledging the totality of who these people are and the massive poverty and dysfunction that they have within their communities. You just go and get the elite business class or the educated class, and you look at the cream of the crop, and you compare the Black masses to the Asian elites, or compare the Black masses to the Jewish elites, or compare the Black masses to some other immigrant or some other elite group. Whereas if you actually did a comparison, which I don't think is appropriate, but people really want to do this shit. If you really look at the Black masses and compare them to the Asian masses, African people actually come out ahead in terms of affluency, educational outcomes. Right. But you're going to eliminate like 3 or 4 billion Asian people and focus on the 5 or 6 million and compare them to the Black masses, which isn't a fair or appropriate or accurate or informative comparison. So one of these things he does, the way he relates to the Black masses, is the same way an abusive spouse relates, where I'll tear you down, but I'll give you a little glimmer of hope. Only through me, yet through me, you can get salvation. So you ain't shit, ain't never been shit, and don't nobody love you, don't nobody want to be with you. And I could have a better woman. There's better women out there for me. I could go out here and get me an Asian or snow bunny, but I'm here with you because I'm trying to help you do better. So now give me some money with your trifling self.
So speaking of the money, right? Hustle. So when you look at the Nielsen's report, what they're focusing on, again, and Jared broke this down in the book. I'm not sure the people reading the book. But when they talk about the 14% of the U.S. population as African Americans, they talk about the $573 million on feminine hygiene products, $54 million on toiletries by men's, $810 million on bottled water, $587 million on refrigerated drinks. Again, now there's 48 million Black people. So you take those numbers and you divide it into those 48, and that's how much they're spending per person, every Black person. But again, when you look at that report, you don't see anything about healthcare. You don't see anything about housing. You don't see any of that. And I would hope that Black people will be like, okay, well, what about the other stuff, right? Because again, we so mostly connected to the spending and where you should redirect the spending. This report shows income and spending patterns among Black households. And it's interesting because it breaks it down from the high income and the low income people. And what you will see on these reports is housing is a big ass portion of it, right? Alcoholic beverages is very little. Transportation is a big ass part of it. Entertainment is personal insurance is a big part of it. Educate. So even the concept of Black people are misusing money or misspending money or whatever the case may be, these are the things that I would want people to look at. The annual expenditures of the average Black person is 36,000, and so 79% of the income before taxes is going to housing. And even when you look at like the income, the low income versus the high income, let me go down to this right quick, because this was an interesting thing in terms of like the top 5 ways that low income and high income people spend their money. Make sure I find it. Yeah, anyway, I can get it, but the top 5. So for low income households, the top 5 aggregates expenditures is, for low income, 45% of the income goes to housing, 23% goes to food, 11% goes to healthcare. I'm sorry, transportation. 4% go to healthcare, and 3.8% goes to entertainment. That's for the low income people. When you go into the high income people, their 5 is obviously 1, housing, 34%. Transportation is 2, 17%. Personal insurance is 3. Food is 4, and then healthcare is 5. And so one would probably argue like, oh, they don't do entertainment, but the reality is they do spend more for entertainment than, lower income people. But again, the crux of it is all of that money, the trillion or whatever you want to call it, all of that money or a large portion of that money literally goes to living, which none of these grifters could or should advocate that they have the control of those industries. So they don't sell houses or they don't have healthcare, all these other things. But go ahead. What do you think?
I just think this is an exercise in futility, because debunking a goddamn fool.
Well, again,
what do you gain?
But I don't know. Again, I don't know if the goal is to debunk a fool and act like what this fool is saying don't resonate with a bunch of people. Are we calling everybody a fool? All the Black people a fool? The 80% or higher people listen to Umar or regurgitate that line? Like, it's not like he has a wild ass line that's not.
If you believe, yes, if you accept that, then you are a fool. That is a foolish thing to accept. So
we gonna have to organize fools, don't you think?
If you can.
So if the majority of people believe that.
But here's the thing. Anybody, I mean, this is an old thing. Black people and spending, black spending. And the reason, which I understand the necessity. But we never get around to talking about what the real oppression is. Because these motherfuckers set up these arguments. It's just like, oh, Black fathers don't defend their children, or as Umar was putting, single mothers are destroying the Black community, and they just throw these fallacies out. They never really speak to or target the real sources of oppression, because all of their analysis of the problem and their proposed solutions leave the superstructure intact. They are reactionary. They look at symptoms and superficialities and try to pretend that those are the core issues. They look at outcomes and they try to redefine them as being the sources of the problem as opposed to the outcome of core problems. So I don't mind debunking the fool, but I would like to at the same time we give as much energy, because these motherfuckers, especially when you have someone coming from just pulling shit out of thin air. I was going to say pulling it out his ass, but I'm trying to learn from you to be more. With all due respect for Dr. Fubar. So I'll say he pulls it out of the air instead of pulling it out of his ass. These assertions, condemnations, and critiques of Black people that are not grounded in facts, not grounded in reality, and not even grounded in any real contemplation or reflection or thought. and then we go and get the hard shit and be like, oh no, this is what it is. We'll be chasing this motherfucker forever in perpetuity. So I'm just, maybe you could tell me, how do we get out of this cycle of people constantly, oh, Bitcoin, black mothers, single black mothers are the problem. We don't spend our money properly, and we're constantly running in behind them and playing catch up. Be like, oh no, that's not the problem. Oh no, that's not. No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. When do we get around to saying this is it? This is what it is.
So I think that's only happening in organization on the ground right now, right? So I don't, from my experience, any organization I'm connected to, they're not running behind a Umar, right? They're not trying to disabuse a Umar. They're not even having a conversation about Umar. But on platforms where people are getting this high disease type content, they need to have more correct content or more spaces to find resources to disabuse themselves from the bullshit. But at the same time, like, what I'm saying is, I know for a fact these ideas are not void in the communities that we organize into. They might not say like Umar, but for instance, when Umar say like, we don't even need no snow bunny, and snow bunny can't be teaching my kids, blah blah blah. Like, it's funny to them, it sounds good to them, but then they believe that's a line. So automatically a white teacher means negative, and automatically a black teacher means positive. And I live in a city where that shit don't fly, because Atlanta is.
I've had to sit across from some batshit insane black teachers talking some utter nonsense to my children. I wish it was that. I wish, hey, black teacher is going to be African-centered, accurate, nurturing education. You know, I wouldn't let Umar teach my child, sit there and say he spent $44 million on cologne. I wouldn't let Umar teach my child. But you know, but I guess he.
But even so, like, again, the conversation I had with Dennis, the conversation I have in general, like, most people are almost confident that money can change their reality, right? Which money could alter some things, but I don't know that they're aware that it, at the end of the day, it's not the money that is actually doing these things, right?
Let's go back to Dale Jones. Dale Jones, and it's not just Dale Jones, several other people, Michael Parenti, if Dale Jones is a little too radical. We were wealthier than the people who enslaved and colonized us.
But even if
we were wealthier than the people who enslaved and colonized us.
But Nana Kuntu don't have the same definition of wealth as the majority of people.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does.
Michael
Parenti articulated that wealthy countries are the ones that get colonized. Nobody invades a poor country. Nobody invades a country that doesn't have an abundance of wealth.
Who the hell talking about stealing shit?
So, if wealth was a path to securing liberation or a path to sustaining freedom and power, then China has no wealth. I was just reading an article about Israel and the diamond trade. Israel doesn't have one fucking diamond mine. Not one. So, and the countries that have the abundance of diamonds are begging Israel for aid, and begging UK, France, Europe, which has a deficit of natural resources, is out here controlling, like, even look at Chicago. Let's not even go. You look at Chicago, downtown Chicago, and you go downtown Chicago and you look in any direction, you don't see no farmland. But you know what's located in the downtown Chicago? The commodities exchange and trade. And all the commodities, the prices, the distribution, all of that's controlled from Chicago. And you go down there, you won't see one goddamn farmer. And the farmers out in Nebraska, Kansas, and all that are sitting on their land, hoping and praying that some guy in a suit in a tower with the goddess of agriculture at the top of this skyscraper downtown Chicago. Oh, please hope. Let them not manipulate. Let them not go belly up. I hope they don't take my farm. So I think in terms of revolutionary and understanding wealth, understanding money, Money is a tool, it is a currency, but it is not the source of wealth. The wealthy people did not get their wealth by coordinating their spending and purchases. Queen Elizabeth didn't say, well, I'm not going to buy hygiene products and name brand clothing and silk. So I just think it's such a warped notion, and it is just creating another product for consumption. Black people spend their money wrong. So I'm going to create a product that can allow Black people to spend their money right when it's the same cycle. Oh, Black people, we buy hair products and children's cologne when you should buy this school, when you should buy this African-centered revolutionary product. And then the motherfucker takes the money and does the same thing the other people did with the money. For us, by us.
He got the
cross
chains
colors.
On. Yeah.
Title. Slutty vegan.
Take the money and go. Take the money and fly out.
And you genuinely
Panama.
have Black people. Like my son just the other day, he goes to this Black-owned cafe. And we were out somewhere and he was like, hey, I want to get me a cocoa or get something while we were running errands. And I'm like, well, we'll just pull over at this cafe. And he's like, no, take me to Sip and Savor. That ain't Black-owned. And he looked at us like, y'all be going to the non-Black-owned cafes? And we had to go out and around our way. And I was proud of him. I'm like, you're right. We should, if we got to go a few blocks out of our way to go to Sip and Savor, go to this Black-owned coffee shop, then that's what we going to do. And I'm glad my son put that on me. But for him to think, yeah, and when I walk in there and slap that dollar on the table, every time I slap a dollar on the table, a colonizer dies. A missile gets dismantled. You know, an imperialist army brigade gets recalled to base. None of the shit we need to happens as a result of us spending correctly.
So, I don't know. I think it would be nice. Well, Coco's, I don't know if she's talking about Umar. Do y'all have evidence of how he spends his money? Right. So
he's unquestionable.
And then what's the solutions? So I guess we can actually get into the questions too in the comments. And then
a lot of people are going on and saying we glossed over him saying white teachers can't teach us about Harriet Tubman.
So yeah, we could deal with that. And Dennis, let me know if you're in the chat. I can send you the link if you want to jump on. But let's get into like the question part. And then also, yeah, like for Coco, if when you say what's the solution, could you tell us to what? Like solution to what exactly? For instance, if we're talking about the idea of lying that Black people are misspending money. So when you say what's the solution to what? Like where do you see the problem at there? But shout out to what is that? Doll Tears. And Jared already did that. He did that. Need to pick. Let me find out who commented these things. So yeah, let's go here. So basically, the answer would be to not just entrepreneurship in our communities, but eradicating the system of capitalism. So I guess there was a post that Manny had the other day, and Manny was talking about something, and then instead of answering the question, the brother was like, "What's the alternative?" And I was like, "Could you just explain to me what you think capitalism is?" And there's not really and it's almost like we talked about with fascism the other day. It's not really answers that people could like give to where they can coherently talk about capitalism. And so in the US, trying to explain to people about the capitalist system and how the social order need to change, we're obviously not doing too well, right? When you have the school systems doing what it do, and then the entertainers and corporate media, like it's very, you know, in terms of the battle ideas, we're very out organized and out propagandized. So what are your thoughts around this question that the sister has?
Yeah, the short answer, yes, Sophia. The answer is eradicating the system of capitalism. But we also have to understand that unjust hierarchies and oppression predate capitalism. Capitalism is one of the many, is a relatively new phenomenon, and which is another reason why it's really problematic that people really think there is no reality beyond capitalism. There's no realistic way, because capitalism is simply an accumulation and distribution system. So yes, we have to eradicate capitalism, imperialism, global white hegemony. You're absolutely right. That's what our orientation needs to be. And the answer in entrepreneurialism doesn't really speak to our collective issue. Entrepreneurialism can speak to a person's individual interest or a family or even a community, but our collective situation is not impacted by entrepreneurialism. And I'm sorry to say, and the reason why entrepreneurialism is promoted as a solution is simply because it does not affect the status quo. We've got Black billionaires. We've got Black moguls. They've been emerging since Reconstruction going forward. We've had, from Madam C.J. Walker and on down the line. But they are no threat to the systems and institutions of white hegemony and white. That just because something is not a threat, there's a lot of things. You might be into needlepoint or video games. There's a lot of things African people do to pursue our interests, to enrich our lives, or that we just get off on, that aren't necessarily a direct threat to the systems and institutions. And that's fine. It's good to have interests and pursuits and things of that nature. Just don't misinterpret, this nonsense. Oh, just love yourself and love other Black people, and that's enough. No, revolution is revolution. And we can discuss entrepreneurialism, but not in the context of it being liberatory.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if Skip trying to get Coco or Ricky in, but the link is in the chat for Ricky.
Hating from outside
Coco.
the club, and they can't even get in. Let them.
Oh, Ricky, Coco, and or Dennis, any of y'all or whoever.
Let them scream at us from behind the barriers. We have the EYL has a free speech zone. Y'all forgot about that from the Bush era. Those little free speech zones. You go to a protest, and they have the little box like 100 yards away from the actual event. And they be like, this is a free speech zone. So Coco and Ricky are in the free speech zone. They hating from outside the club and can't get in. So that's just how
brother
it is.
Brother Chris says, why do people think a critical analysis of a person's equates to attacking someone? Well, I mean, I think people are not, even though we are in the battle of ideas, I think people are really more focused on personalities than ideas, because oftentimes, from my experience, people don't have much of an argument of the ideas of the people who they love in terms of personally, and they hold on to the things that the person say that they can resonate with, and then they might thought like, well, nobody's perfect and all this other stuff. So I feel like it's a bad faith or anti-intellectual endeavor when people shift to you attacking the person as opposed to dealing with the ideas. And then again, getting people to change people behaviors, like cognitive dissonance happens, and then the people kind of use some type of defense mechanism to kind of like maintain status quo or maintain that image of the person. So yeah. What do you think, Diallo?
Yeah, and I think listen, I don't have an issue with attacking someone, because if you put yourself up as the embodiment of those ideas,
Right.
one who, like if you make a proposal is one thing, maybe we should try this. But the moment a lot of these people, like these demagogues and cult leaders, they don't just, it's not an arena where ideas are shared. Like Jared doesn't put himself as the embodiment, as the ambassador, as the vanguard for battling the myth of Black buying power. He's like, these are some analysis and conclusions, and he puts it out there for other people to dissect. But a lot of these demagogues out here, when they make an assertion or take a position, they make, when you say I'm the descendant, I have the baton I'm a descendant of Marcus Garvey and Fred Hampton, and only through me, salvation can be secured. It's almost impossible to not critique the attack the person. So a lot of times it's not possible. And if I say, the nation of Farrakhan, where an organization is almost a product, an extension, a apparatus of the person. So sometimes it's not possible. I think that's why, because a lot of these people.
The nation of Farrakhan is wild. You about to get in trouble again.
You tell me what it is.
I don't know. Not the nation of Farrakhan, because when he goes, they're still gonna be moving.
Well, I used to buy the Final Call, and on every single issue of Final Call I'd been buying since I was in middle school, is state who the Muslims are and what Muslims believe. And I see Farrakhan routinely, according to his own whim, violate the basic tenets of the cult. So by the time the person becomes more or becomes the avatar, I think that's a good word for it, but it is what it is. All I'm saying is, I do think that there are some places and some people where you can critique analysis and critique positions and even critique organizations and what they advocate. For some folks and a lot of people, it's hard to not take shit personal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
You know, because I can debate or somebody can critique veganism. I don't ever put myself up like, oh, I'm vegan and I advocate for veganism or atheism. You could attack atheism. I don't feel attacked. But if you talk about, you know, like the Sabi diet, and you talk about the absurdity of the Sabi diet, then people are going to be like, you're attacking Dr. Sabi. So it really depends on how the person that you are critiquing presents and carries what their analysis and their position.
Well, yeah, I think, I don't know, because even the person can present themselves not centering themselves and people will still deitize them or create demagogues out of them. Because again, Amos never, I've never heard him ever put himself in a space where he's like, look at me this way. He actually shied away from that, and then people still deitize him.
And I'm old enough to where I had the fortune of going to see people like Mackey and Dr. Ben and Amos Wilson speak publicly. And you could see that some of those icons or ancestors, when they finish speaking, they walk out into the crowd and engage with the people and allow the people to ask unscripted questions. And then some of those icons and ancestors, when they finish speaking, they go behind the curtain and disappear. So some people, those are the type of people that engage with the crowd, walk out into the audience, and arrive through the same interest the audience comes through instead of coming through the back, and versus the people. So, you know, some people may say, well, only through me. So I think it's more so the individual or leader or speaker or charismatic figure.
It'd be funny, some of these names, right? So Slug Vomit, reading about the black barbershops and how the only barbers that could prosper were the ones that waited on white genitally and most genitally. What's that?
Genitally. No, gently.
I was about to say genitalia, but okay.
Gentilly. Messing me up.
Most of them promoted the bootstrap theory and respectability politics for the black advancement. So even again, this goes back to Dennis' conversation. I wish he would come up, but we use the example of building wealth through a barbershop, and I was trying to explain to him, like, as a barber, you're gonna be cutting hair, but you would need all other people to cut hair, and then you take a cut of their money. So you're gonna be scraping yourself off the top, and that's how you're gonna get it. And most people feel like, well, that's because he's the owner, and that's just the way things are. And to them, it's logical that you get 100% of your cut, and then 30 or 40% of everybody else's cut, only because you decided to take the loan from the bank and rent out this building that you don't even own. And so, like, having a conversation, I know it's close to like the tenant renter relations, but having a conversation that's not logical or fair or real is more so of like, people think that's just the way things are, and they adjust to the US. And it's quite honest. Like, I've heard people who be like, you're using the white man's language, but in like capitalism to them is not white man's language. That's something that's just logical to them, and everything else is kind of white man's language, including socialism.
And again, wealth is not synonymous with freedom. Wealth is not freedom. I think, like he said, and I don't know why this is hard for people to grasp, we were wealthier than the people who enslaved and colonized us. We had more wealth, material, resource wealth, than the people who enslaved and colonized us. Even Dr. Amos Wilson, who did advocate for black businesses and coordinating and consolidating the black dollar, even said the most valuable resource a people can have is a cohesive ideology that they're able to promote and sustain through generations.
I mean, I wonder if we can have a real struggle around what wealth is in the first place, because I don't know.
I totally agree, because non-contaminated water, having a bunch of fiat,
Clean as air,
soil, mutually beneficial and mutually supportive relationships. This is madness. Yeah, but
what the hell? When you can't pay your rent, wealth does become freedom for some. I don't know. That wasn't even a thought comment. But anyway, so you totally gloss over his points about education for our children. How come? Wait, did we?
Yeah, I think. Well, he said we did. So
I mean,
sit here and die.
Okay. So,
well, here's the thing about that. I go with Bobby E. Wright. There's a difference between education and training. Bobby E. Wright said the formal school system, the formal education system can provide you with training, but education must come from your community. To educate someone is not to what you put in them, but what it means to bring out. So you educate someone when you facilitate the emergence and expansion of their abilities, their talents, their intellect. So I do agree that we need a new philosophy about education, and we do need to make distinctions between institutional or formal education and communal education. I don't agree that simply this oversimplistic view of Black teachers versus white teachers. It sounds good in a rhythmic chant, but in application, in formal application, I love how people propose things, but give no evidence that, number one, they apply it to themselves, or number two, that they have some viable means of getting there. You know, I can't even see, because like all of my sons they haven't had exclusively Black teachers, but they've all dwelled within predominantly Black spaces. You know, and I live in predominantly Black communities, and I send my kids to predominantly Black schools and events and things. That's just, you know, just rule of thumb for me. But I'm not going to sit here and say, well, that's the solution, because I don't know. Because I was just thinking, when he was saying that, I was thinking, you know, my son's science teacher is a Black woman, and most of his teachers are Black, except for his English teacher. I believe she's white. His AP English, AP honors. I said AP's honors English.
I think what get annoying for me, what's annoying for me is like when folks talk about Umar, and then he could say words like, for instance, he talked about the curriculum. So I'm like, none of these people have ever seen Umar curriculum, and none of them can argue Umar's curriculum, right? Or argue for Umar's curriculum because they've never seen it. But even if they see it, I'm positive his curriculum is not going to be far from what he's teaching on the platforms. What
he did put out his he did of several years ago. He put out his curriculum.
Where's it at though?
It was online. It was someone sent it to me actually. But here's the thing that was funny about that. His curriculum and his school's policies and mission statement violate not only labor laws. The school would be flooded with lawsuits. He literally, like, you couldn't teach at his school if you didn't have natural hair. And he said only Black people could work at his school. Now, I owned a business, and all my employees were Black, but I was never foolish enough to put whites need not apply on the fucking paperwork or on the front door. You know, like, who the fuck does that? Like, that's just so he's just performing. Because, like, I know some other Black business owners that everybody just so happens.
I guess I never talked to Coco about Umar, but I would love to know more, because it seems like
school did open.
Yeah, but it seems like I don't know if she's ever defending him, but it seems like she has pushback. So I would love to hear more about her experience or connection to Umar. Wait, I didn't say
But
nothing about
anyway,
Arabs. I like how
like
you
I
can say
saw it, and
ooh.
like I said, the school would be bombarded with lawsuits, and wherever he's operating would immediately, you show up day 2 of school, and there would be all those stickers on the door, and it would be taped off and shut down. Because even if he was conspiring to defeat the school system, he already gave his detractors and opponents enough ammunition to shut his shit down because it's violation basic labor laws and labor codes of the school.
All right, let's go to the. I think Dennis is gonna be coming on soon. And in households, I talk to my parents about these foolish ideas every damn day, trying to debunk them. So again, I think the struggle for ideas, your family members, the community members, like, for instance, I just heard the other day that my mom thinks I hate white people. And I'm like, when we never had like a win, like when we've never had that conversation.
Just
But
tell us
maybe
some of your best friends are white.
Well, I mean, I can't say that, but I'm just saying, like, but
white folks are good role models in how to deflect accusations of hating other people. Just do what white folks do. I can't be anti-white. Some of my best friends are white.
I don't know. Who knows, buddy?
Yeah, that's why I keep a couple of white friends. Just I've been waiting.
Yeah, but now we in the battle. So even I don't know if Coco said it in the chat, but so tell me what solution do you think Umar is actually trying to solve, and then maybe let's try to struggle around what we think a better solution would be. But what is Umar trying to change or solve, or I don't know.
Umar wants a black version of white reality. Umar embraces the hierarchy.
Well, I'm saying, but what is the problem though? What is the problem he's trying to solve?
Black oppression.
Okay.
The state of black people, the dysfunction and maladaptation of the black masses. And so what Umar wants is a conservative 1950s style black reality. He wants to return to the Jim Crow era, just not but he wants black control over a white reality. So he wants the 2-parent household picket fence. He wants a heterosexual, patriarchal, hierarchical, capitalistic, theocratic reality that excludes whites, that black men, not black women, are at the leadership, and not black men, but not black males, but masculine, heterosexual, alpha males at the head. Umar simply wants Leave It to Beaver, but with all black people. He wants a 1950s reality, but an exclusively black 1950s reality. And not even the true 1950s reality, because he doesn't even, I don't even hear him advocating for the social welfare reforms, that allowed for the creation of the white middle class. I never hear him articulating this or advocating for social welfare. In fact, I've heard him disparaging welfare as a destructive force. So he doesn't even want a 1950s reality. He wants a pre-New Deal 1930s gilded American reality, but exclusively black. There you go. And dashikis for all.
Hey, Skip, it didn't work. Skip, we tried, it didn't work, but we got somebody better than Ricky.
I told you they hate from outside.
We got some better. We got somebody better than both of them.
Trolling.
We got somebody better than both of them. And when we bring this brother on, we all gonna talk shit about Jared. Jared ain't here. We just gonna.
I mean, he looks like a good replacement for Jared. All he got to do is just trim his beard a little, and we got Jared 2.0.
My brother Dennis. Yo, what up, Dennis? Can you hear us?
Welcome.
Dennis, you can hear us? No? I don't think you can hear. You can hear us? No? No, I guess not.
He hears you. He's just playing hard to get.
Well, maybe he not. I'll text him and say it. But Dennis, what are you looking at? Can you see us? Can you hear us? Or is he frozen? He's frozen, right? No, he's not frozen. Is this guy? I don't know, man. Well, you just let me know when you come back, because I don't know how to get his attention. But anyway, yeah, we can wrap up. We was gonna wrap up with those questions. You're on mute too now, Diallo. Damn, everybody on mute. What the fuck going on?
Stop muting people.
I didn't mute nobody.
That's exactly what a muter would say.
Anyway, what you got going on for the week? I don't know. I don't know if Dennis gonna be able to come on because,
man, this weather ugly. I'm gonna have my granddaughter this weekend.
Granddaughter. Wait, you a granddad? How old is your granddaughter?
She's a Grinch. Just months. Little baby Grinch. I didn't show you the thing from the thing.
Nah, you.
Yeah. So my plan this weekend is no sleep. Because my son said, that's her. Are you gone? I'm showing you my granddaughter. See her little Grinch outfit?
I said, oh, Grandy.
Yeah. So
Granddaddy Diallo. That's what you're gonna call yourself, Granddaddy Diallo?
Listen, I don't listen.
Pop.
Listen.
No, make it known right now. What do you want your granddad name to be? Pop.
I let the child choose. My oldest son called me by my first name, called me Diallo for like the first 3 years, with like 3 years. And everybody was outraged. So I've never, my sons, I just let it go organic, because I'm against any hierarchy, so I don't need any.
So you gonna be the granddaddy cursing people out and shit and talking fly?
Who I curse out?
I'm just asking. I'm trying to look out for the grandbaby, because I got a what would she be my grandniece? Yeah, I got a grandniece.
So you're a great uncle.
Yeah,
I've been doing great uncle for years. I've been a great uncle too. You should talk to my great nieces and nephews.
I'm
wasn't
sorry,
the best
Diallo.
uncle
I wasn't
in the
trying to
world.
be rude. I was trying to get our guests on, so my bad, Diallo. I hate when people call me rude, and now I wasn't being rude, but I'm sorry.
Just being jealous.
You woman, you.
Oh, yeah, you get to say. For a second, I'm like, damn.
No, that's what she said.
That's her name. I see.
I was like, you women, you. Oh, God, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I guess
that's
Dennis,
my whole weekend, man.
Dennis having
my
some
weekend is shot.
difference.
No streets, no running the streets for me.
Oh, you ain't doing no hood
But I got that reparations event coming up.
Oh yeah, I would love to
Brother
see
Cam, and there's Willie Wilson, who's a local philanthropist. He like giving out $100 and $50 bills at the door. That's the only reason I'm going. Yeah, he be pulling up at gas stations and filling up people's tanks, random gas stations around town. Trickle down economic shit. He'll like go to a hood gas station. He did one right around the corner, man. Nobody told me. Nobody said nothing until after it was over. People pull up in front of your house and like, I just got a full tank of gas from Willie. And I'm like, after it's over. So yeah, Willie Wilson gonna be there. He's gonna be on the panel. So I'm gonna try to show up early, see if I can get a $50 crisp $50 bill at the door. I've been in this town over a decade, and I ain't got me my Willie Wilson 50 yet. So I will be at the reparations conference, and hopefully Willie will be passing out hundreds and 50s at the door.
Well, I ain't got nothing. We got some
you in ATL, man. You in Wakanda.
Nah, man, we got some
shit happening.
We got some community meetings and some stuff this week. That about it.
I'm gonna give me a crisp $50.
But we are about to start Black Scare, Red Scare, Dr. CBS book for our think tank. So
I never got a copy.
You should get a copy, bro.
You do what? Listen, I'm spoiled. You be sending me PDFs and copies of books.
Shh. I'm
okay.
I'm the plug.
Right. So now you done got me out of the habit of buying books.
My bad. I'll see what I can do. But anyway, man, we can't wait on this.
And it's just like everybody else. You give out some shit for free, and then
again.
And then once somebody's hooked, you're gonna start charging.
Diallo, you never been in the drug game? You do get the first few tastes for free, brother.
Nah, man, I love my people too much.
Oh, okay, my bad. Well, the cookie game, you sell
I would
cookies,
never. No,
fish sandwiches.
vegan cupcakes.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right,
oh
Dennis,
yeah,
we
we used to
gonna try
hustle
Dennis one more
cupcakes
time.
hard in this
We're
city.
gonna try Dennis one more time. Let me see if you're ready. Dennis, can you hear us?
Peace.
Yeah. But you probably need the headphones. But how you doing?
Yeah, man. I'm at home, man. I told you I don't even get up this early. Man, I would normally be in my office with everything set up, but yeah, I'm here. Peace. Brother Diallo, peace, brother Geechee.
Yo. So
Peace.
yeah, it's gonna be some feedback. I'll let you have your headphones. But
Let me see if I can turn my phone off and put my.
But yeah, so we had a little conversation about like the Baltimore beef that Jared Books have that I think you're responsible for.
I'm responsible for?
Yeah, but your brother said I'm responsible for it, but I think you're responsible for it. Huh?
You picked it up and took it to a whole nother level. Took
Okay,
it to another level.
Okay, so basically you're responsible for it. But yeah, go ahead. You just go ahead, spin your thoughts around the book, the argument, and how you see the beef moving.
How I feel like I see the beef moving. I think I wrote it. I wish, man, I don't have anything right now. I even took notes, but nonetheless, I think that many times, I think as you all were saying, the argument is around personalities, and some of our personalities that we all revere. You know, the Dr. Clarks, just say the Dr. Clarks, the Dr. Ben, well, in this case, the Dr. Benz. I'm sorry, Dr. Amos Wilson's and the and Claude Anderson. You know, but specifically a Dr. Amos Wilson, or maybe even a Garvey, or what have you. But I think it's more of a defending than of a thing than rather a critique of the book. And I think sometimes what we do is we keep saying look into the book, and you all actually spoke to that a little bit earlier. But it's not really about the book for these people who are arguing. It's really about what is being said and how it's being said. From my own argument, I would tell you, as I put in the post, I think that Jared, Dr. Ball makes many great points. But one thing I would disagree with Dr. Ball, and I did some years ago. I agree because I feel like sometimes he undermines his own argument. And this is in support of it, because when he said he has no solutions, what that type of emotional funk that puts in somebody's brain, when I think that he does bring solutions, or at least some objectives to, or he does have ideas. What people are really interpreting about that is not exactly what his intentions are. So as you said earlier about maybe I'll redress this, or maybe restate it in a way that people can digest it. That's my argument there. But as far as barbershops, I think that's a whole different argument. I don't think barbershops take more than 40-50% of, they don't take that amount of money. But nonetheless, that's not even how you set that up wasn't even accurate.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't want to, because again, I don't know how people, it really just depends. I don't know if you ever been to No Grease, and I'm hearing feedback to the headphones. So mute yourself while we talking, if you can't have headphones. But No Grease in Charlotte, right? There's certain barbershops that I don't know the percentage. What I'm saying is you get 100% of your money, and then you get a percentage of their money. And my example was whether it's 30, 40, 50, or whatever percent. And that actual structure in a society like this, people will say, oh, that's normal. That's just how it is. It's business or whatever. We'll make arguments for it, other than the fact that these people's labor or talents being exploited by this one person. That's literally how it's structured. And then in terms of the solution part, and we talked about this the other day when we was on the phone, and Diallo, you can kind of respond to this. By Jared saying he doesn't have a solution, he's literally saying you studying and learning actually why this is a myth is not a solution. So it's not going to do anything for your material conditions, but it's going to probably get you in a position to actually create a solution, which takes being in organization. And I think for me, like I said the other day, if that's undermining his argument, then the people who are saying that probably not going to be doing anything anyway, because like they're trying to find a reason not to be like, well, I don't want to, I think you said it, but the brother sound doom and gloom. And it's almost like somebody's telling the truth sounds doom and gloom is wild. But at the same okay. But at the same time, it's almost like what's going to be done next, or what's going to be done with the information.
But again, my argument is that I think that, I mean, again, we can look at the word solution or, objectives or means of moving forward. One of the things that Dr. Ball said some years ago in a lecture that I recorded back to him is he says, debunk the myths and the revolution will begin. And he said, well, I'm telling you what he said in a lecture of mine. I got you. This is what he said. So, I mean, it's on film, it's on tape. And I on this particular video, I actually stated, like, I brought that to his attention. This is what he said in his lecture, right? And so what I'm saying is an argument that I think Dr. Ball does have, again, some objectives, let's say that. And sometimes because it shuts people's minds down when he said he doesn't have solutions, at least the ones who don't want to hear it. It's like, this is the only thing they're going off of. My thing is just don't say that. And I got why people do say that. Because people always say, where are the solutions? Where are the solutions? What is the solutions? What are the solutions? So I get why he does say that, but I don't really think that does anything for his argument. And everything else, it's no beef. I don't have a beef at all. But what I'm saying is, I really believe that I'm just saying that doesn't strengthen your argument.
Diallo, go ahead if you need. But I gotta mute you.
No, I just glad people fighting and I'm on the outside.
This guy.
I get to enjoy conflict with no effort-free conflict. Yeah.
But so I mean, anyway, like I think going back to maybe even the argument around, so if somebody puts a body of work out, and if Jared is saying this, which I don't know, because you're quoting him and he's not here, but if you're saying that get the myth out of the way and then a revolution can happen, meaning like there's like before revolution theory happened, right? You have to have a theory, you have to have revolutionary theory. And if you're not having ideological clarity, then yeah, there's no way to actually begin the revolution. So maybe that's what you're saying, like the revolution in your mind, like.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a really good
like,
one-liner. That's a bar.
Yeah, if he's saying that,
what's
like
that bar thing Jared throws up, bars.
There you go. No, but I'm saying if he's saying that, then
it's no argument. What I'm saying is, I think it's a bar. I think what I'm saying is, in the very lecture he says this. I bring it back up that you do, like, to people when they hear that he has nothing. That's not what. And when he's providing all types of things. Of course, I guess there's a difference. That I can't answer all the questions. I don't have all these. I think what it is Dr. Ball has a great level of scholarly humility, and sometimes that doesn't work in the streets. You understand? In academia, all that I'm saying, because I'm in academia, I've been, all that type of thing. I think it doesn't necessarily work for you, in because people misread that. But I respect it personally.
Do you think his argument will be? I got it again. Do you think his argument will be better if he adjusts that and say, okay, I got a solution for y'all. Join an organization, but the myth is a myth. Like,
he'll give them one less piece of fuel to just utilize and not consider his argument, because that piece right there, they don't even want to go move any more forward, because this is their only comeback. Jared has no solutions, and I'm saying that's not actually true, and he offers up nothing that is not actually true. But this is what people are taking and spinning and propagating around the world, when that's not the case. I think Dr. Jared is being very humble and showing scholarly humility, that he doesn't have all the answers, but what happens is, how is that being interpreted?
But here's the thing. Do you think if he articulated a solution that would change his opposition?
Not even if he articulated this solution, right? It's not even about that. It's that, again, because we know it's complex, right? But the reality is, just take that one piece away, and maybe people, perhaps, that maybe it will allow people to really consider his argument a bit more, or at least not utilize that, weaponize his own words against him.
But here, I'm sorry. But here's the thing: that black buying power myth and propaganda has been with us for over a century. It's deeply ingrained, and it's not even unique to black people. That consumer power, some of the most powerful and entrenched forces in modern society, using some of the most powerful technology and techniques of mass indoctrination. It is extremely powerful. So I could understand someone saying, listen, I think this body of work, this effort is a contributing factor, but it's going to take more than a book or an individual to debunk this. So I think it would be better that if people are attacking Ball saying he doesn't have solutions, to me, a critique is a component, a diagnosis. Let me tell you, you could have the best surgeon in the world. You could have the most well-researched and effective medicine in the world. But if you don't have a proper diagnosis, and if the people who do have the solutions are working off of an incorrect or a non-diagnosis, the best solution in the world, the best cure to a disease that you failed to diagnose. So his diagnosis, his critique is a solution. It's part of the larger network of solution, because you're not going to have one thing like, oh, you wrote the book, now give us the solution. The myth and propaganda does not come from a single source. It didn't come from an individual. It's not someone wrote a book or an essay and wrote down, hey, black buying power is a thing, and put it out to the world. You have networks from multinational corporations to cult leaders to business and entrepreneurs to people in their own personal lives who believe this. So the solution is going to be a multifaceted. So if you say, hey, people are out here asking for a solution, because debunking the myth is a contribution. So let somebody, if he doesn't want to take on that work, I think it's valid to say, now go solve. Like, I think that's a valid position if that's one he wants to take. But
that's not what's being said, though.
That aside, he does have solutions and he does offer solutions. Sorry.
But that's what I'm saying. Exactly what you said is exactly what I'm arguing. He does have solutions. And I'm going to quote what he said here. He said, debunk the myths and the revolution will begin. And I that's a bar. But what I'm also, everything you just said, Brother Diallo, is exactly what I'm saying. And when he says he doesn't have any solutions, it then counters that he does have solutions.
Do you think it becomes a problem when it's still feedback, but it becomes a problem when folks is trying to talk about the actual thing, and you again, because we're going about information, content, ideology, and not personality, right? So if Jared is saying this, you, Dennis, you go work for this person who has a shea nut tree and you help him get all the shea nuts to grind. He sells it to the store and you take the money, the little bit of money he give you, and you go buy it from the store. The owner of the shea nut tree in the land, we're not talking about power there. The store owner, we're not talking about power there. But the person who take their money to go buy something, we're talking about power there. That fundamentally is a problem. And if he's talking about that, I think his delivery and all this other stuff we're kind of focusing on or whatever, like he's not gonna have a solution for the brother, but he's gonna tell the brother, like, you just gonna have to stop using that. That's not power. You're not displaying power by getting money from the shea nut tree owner after helping him tear down the shea nuts and grind it, to use that little bit of money to go buy it from the store owner.
There's no reason for that argument, because I agree with that argument. I agree with you. I think that argument is there. But as you said earlier, sometimes if you say things in a way, you want to say it in a way that people are more likely to hear it.
I can't hear y'all.
Oh, you can't hear me? Or you all, now I'm not saying it's going to be perfect either, but what I'm saying is, as me, as you, as I go into these barbershops, my dear brother Jabari's barbershop, as I go into these streets, as I'm on panels, as I sat on one of your panels before. And the thing is, if we want that message to be, just the fact is, I don't agree with the thing that he don't have solutions. It's not true. That's what I'm saying. It's just not true that he doesn't have any type. He don't have any substance. That he doesn't have any ideas of how we move forward. This is what people are hearing when they say we don't have solutions. Other than that, I don't have an argument. I mean, I don't know how we argue this, because he does. He has solutions. Stop saying it. with most due respect, you know. But that's it. It's no real argument with mine. You can go and do the whole economic thing and all that, and even the barbershops and the whole. I think there's an argument there between what barbershops take, and I think people operate differently and all that type of thing. And I also think there's an argument between, do I go get a job or do I go work at a barbershop where I'm paying booth rent, which is typically nowhere near the amount of money that I make. I mean, I think we can argue those things, but we're in a system that is very complex, that is very oppressive, and I think you have some argument there. But I think it's like, but at the same time, say go get a job, I think that becomes very perplexing.
But why though? Go to job. Like, what's wrong with go get a job?
Well, I say that becomes perplexing for people, for you to tell me to go get a job versus going and get my barber's license and go and pay booth rent $125, $150, $200 and make maybe $2,000-$3,000 or whatever, and say don't do that. I think that becomes perplexing for people. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just telling you that is not necessarily, that doesn't equate in people's mind. I don't think that's even maybe you can help me understand how that is a logical argument that I should go and get a job and not go and get my barber license and pay some booth rent, and how that person is oppressing me any more than the person that I work in this big industry.
Who told you that?
This is what Geechee brought. This is why I got on.
Geechee, you telling people that? I don't think anybody ever told you that.
No.
I didn't tell him that.
What I'm saying is this.
Who told you that?
Okay, Diallo.
Yes.
Geechee and I had conversation. Before the only reason I got on this show is because Geechee brought up this barbershop narrative, which I think is not really realistic. The barbershop narrative that people are being oppressed through this, and he's talking about this is actual people we're talking about, Eve, too. People who actually have a barbershop, and these people are oppressing people.
But I never said oppress either.
But wait.
Exploiting labor.
Before that, so we're going to acknowledge that nobody discouraged you from going to barber school and told you to get a job instead.
Okay, well, if that's the case, but
so there's no need to be perplexed because nobody told you that.
No, I didn't say I'm perplexed. What I'm saying is the argument comes across as that.
But nobody told you that. Can we acknowledge that?
No one told me what?
Don't go to barber school. Get a job instead.
It has been said, though, Diallo.
Who said that to you?
Hold on, Diallo. Let me say what I'm saying.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, what has been said is that getting a job is a way to. I'm talking about now. Let's talk about what happened last show. It was. I think Dr. Ball said that, and I'm not disagreeing with it. But what I am saying is, he suggested that. I forgot who he was quoting, get a job and fund the revolution, right? And Geechee and I, what's up with the face, brother?
Because I'm trying to understand.
Geechee and I had a conversation around that, and he said, what's wrong with getting a job and fund the revolution? But at the same time, he also, Geechee and I, during a conversation, he speaks down on saying that barbershops are exploiting people.
Allow me to clarify. Mm-hmm. What Geechee talked about is not. I'm gonna mute you because it's echoing. Okay. What Geechee talked about, which is very clear and accurate, he said barbershop as a wealth producer, as opposed to barbershop as a career, barbershop as a venture. From what Geechee said, barbershop and building wealth. And he's basically saying building wealth, whether with a grocery store, with a barbershop, or a coltan mine, is the only way to build wealth. to get money well beyond what your labor provides you is you're going to have to exploit the labor of other people. So if I had a barbershop owner on Prospect in Kansas City, Missouri, and from middle school up into my junior year, I had a high top fade, and I would have serious anxiety if my fade wasn't right. And it was an $8 haircut with a $2 tip. And this man who owned this barbershop lived a comfortable life. He was able to purchase a home. He had a pretty decent but not a fancy car. He dressed pretty clean. He's a barber, so you know they tend to be suave cats. But he was not by anybody's definition of wealthy. So how do you being able to sustain a middle class to lower middle class lifestyle as a barber to becoming wealthy as a barber? If you want to be a wealthy barber, it's a whole different approach as opposed to being a career barber, a successful barber, or a barbershop owner. So the generation of wealth, the accumulation of fiat is what he was speaking to in terms of not saying don't be a barber, but don't be a wealthy barber without thinking you will have to exploit people. You would have to charge obscene amounts for your, because there are some celebrity hairstylists and celebrity barbers where Steve Harvey said he was paying his barber $1,500 a month, and I've seen these $600 and $700 haircuts. So you either are serving and moving with the client, with a wealthy clientele, which is part of the elite, or you're hyper exploiting the labor of other people. How else do you get wealthy?
Well, that's not the argument, though, Diallo. But I agree with that argument. I agree with that if that's the case. But we're talking about just simple barbershops who have 2 or 3 chairs, and they're exploiting people. And sometimes they might never be there might be the barber and somebody else. So
are they wealthy? Are they wealthy?
No, they're not, and they're not going to become wealthy. And I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. That's not the argument, and that's not how it was positioned. But I do agree with that. And Geechee, to some degree, may be saying that, but that's not how he positioned it. And that's what he's saying. I totally agree with that. But we're talking about yes.
How did I position? Because I think what happened is let me say something real quick, because whenever I talk, but I think when we had the conversation, it's like 3 conversations going on at once, right? So it started out with Black buying power, and then we start talking about business ownership. And what I was saying was the majority of Black businesses don't have the capital to scale up to actually be profitable in a way where they're going to build wealth and it's going to be a solution. 2, a lot of Black businesses are relegated to certain industries, including hair care. So you have, even like in Baltimore, you have all of those barbershops on one block. And so the argument is more so of using the barbershop as an example, which we did. And we said something about the person going to the barber, whatever, to get a loan to rent out the building. In order to make that money back, in order to make a profit, they're going to have to make money off of the actual other barbers. And so that's kind of what the idea is, like, how could a barber build some type of wealth in the community other than exploiting the labor of the other barbers? And that was my argument. So I don't even know exactly what.
And exploiting your customers, because you're going to overcharge for your service.
You're going to have to. So you're going to have
people out here talking reckless.
Only one scene at Barber.
Barbers do beards too.
Oh, that's messed up.
Isn't that?
Yeah,
talking
that's
reckless.
messed up,
man. Don't barbers deal with beards too?
No, but I think oftentimes, and maybe this is why it's important to have like struggles and whatever, because it's this idea of people saying something, but like, oh, this is what I heard, and this is how you said it, and it's kind of like,
well, and here's the thing, like Bobby, we've been in this country the longest and understand it the least.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get wealthy by acquiring assets. In fact, assets can be as likely to be a liability as they are. I know someone who inherited a shit ton of land and it almost bankrupted them. The taxes, fees, and fines, because they didn't have the resources they kept getting citations for the cities because they couldn't cut the land. There were liens on the property. So an asset is not simply what we think it is. If you could give me the most abundant coal mine in America,
and that's my asset. But if I don't fucking have miners, if I don't have the mining equipment, if I don't have a refinery or someone and ability to get the coal to the refinery and the distribution network and infrastructure, so you have a property, if you have a home and it's just sitting somewhere, I know people that got boarded up, fucked up assets. So you have to maintain the property, make sure it's up to code, and then put a tenant in there. And then you have to charge the tenant above and beyond, well above and beyond the maintenance of the property and the mortgage if it's not paid off. So simply acquiring an asset is not the source of wealth. Even the capitalists, even Adam Smith and people like Abraham Lincoln, even the fathers of the American empire, and some of the icons of capitalism and white hegemony, they even state the real source of wealth is labor. It's the work of people. Because when you look at anything you define as an asset, it only starts to generate money when you put people in there. Whether it's a plantation, you could own the biggest plantation in under chattel slavery, but it ain't nobody on the land picking the cotton. What the fuck is it besides an overgrown eyesore?
So this is my point, right? So, and I'm gonna let Dennis come back talk on, but in those conversations, it do jump everywhere. And so, for instance, if you interject inside, but what about this? Then we'll start talking about that.
That's your fault. You're supposed to put the thing on the thing, and that's supposed to be where we at.
No, slow down. See what I mean? That's what I mean. That's what I mean. When I'm saying something, you jump in and it takes. That's literally.
Oh, I thought you I responded and you put a period.
Anyway, back to Dennis. Back to Dennis.
And then I responded.
Back to Dennis. The Dennis conversation. It was all over the place. So when you, I don't know if you could hear what I'm saying, because most of the things you're like, oh, I agree with that. But then what about this? Then we start talking about something else. And all I was saying was, in terms of buying power, argue that if you think is wrong. In terms of black business ownership, argue that if you think is wrong. In terms of solution, like we can, any one of them conversations, we can stay there and deal with it. But oftentimes, something else gets said. But go ahead, Dennis.
No, I do. Again, it's not always the data. It's not always the facts. It's not always that. What I'm saying is the positioning and how you present it. Not necessarily you. I'm not talking about explicitly you. I'm talking about all of us, right? And it does come across many times that we are anti-business. Even if that's what we turn around and say in the next hand, that we didn't never say that. I mean, that's a slick move. But what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you're being slick, but it comes across as we have to take accountability for how people also.
I got a question. What is the purpose and utility of black businesses in your mind?
Well, let me say this. That's not. I was going to ask you a question before you cut me off. I was going to ask you: Are you anti-black business? You don't think we should? I'm asking a question, not suggesting. Do you think that we should not have any black businesses?
I think we should have as many black businesses as we want. And my response to the black business has nothing to do with not wanting it. It's the utility and the capacity of them. Mm-hmm. Right. So same thing with the idea about building wealth, according to the wealth that we talk about. You ain't gonna build wealth without wealth.
You ain't gonna build wealth without wealth.
Yeah, you're not gonna build and grow wealth without wealth, or some habit, or if you have a monopoly on violence and you're gonna take some shit, that's another thing. But if they build wealth through violence, public policy, and fraud.
Yeah, I think you argue your argument through me, as I agree with that again. You know what I'm trying to say? But what I'm saying is my argument is that many times it comes across as black business and is not necessarily.
That's why my question is there, though. My question is so that we can be clear, what is the purpose and role of black businesses according
to serve
to
the
you?
black community.
Serve.
No, I'm talking about if I was to create a black business, what would be my purpose?
Yeah, maybe your purpose.
Are we talking about on an individual level? Are we talking about what's going on right now?
I'm talking about under capitalism. The purpose of business is to
no,
profit.
Diallo, that's not what I got to get the argument clarified. And if you're talking about personally, what would be me as a business owner, and Diallo as a person who owned the tea shop and the coffee shop and the bookshop, I agree with Diallo's analysis. Diallo, I listen to you. I'm a fan of yours. But what I'm saying is I agree with Diallo's analysis when he said the reason and what can be done in these black coffee shops and tea shops and bookstores and things like that. That's what be the purpose for black business as it pertains to my opinion. Now, as it pertains to what's going on, I would agree that it's some bullshit. Excuse my language.
So let me tell you this. One time, this is my brother, the guy named Marifa. He's in our study group at one point. He was talking about Charlotte. And we asked him, what are the basic things that every African deserves or needs? He says food, water, and healthcare. And we all agree, right? Just starting there, Diallo. Calm down, starting there.
Shelter.
Okay, shelter, right? Those four, right? Now, if those are the basic things black people need, if they don't have it, is it logical, principled to create a business around that and sell it to them and say that you're serving them?
That's not the argument. I'm not selling that business. What I'm saying is,
I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to focus on.
Let me give you mine now.
Serving.
I'm not going. Your box is not going to be defined. You're not going to define the boxes. What I'm saying is, what I would do is, if I had a business, it would be another business, and it will provide those waters. It will provide those things for the people that need it. So, for example, going back to if I had a tea shop, right? We got to just keep it a buck. People are going to buy their tea. People are going to buy their incense, their shea butter, all that stuff. You know what I'm trying to say? People are going to get their haircuts. But what do I do with that? Do I serve my community with that? Do I provide food? Do I provide training? What do I do with that? That's what I think you provide what the people need with the assets that you accumulate.
But I guess my thing is the service part. Like selling and serving is two different things, right? So if you're selling to your community, selling to them something that they need, I'm not sure that should also be services. Like your objective is to make a profit. You're not selling at a loss, because then you ain't really doing business, right? And so the goal is to make some type of profit, right? And the goal is to make some type of profit. So that what I'm saying is the objective of black businesses. I think that's what we struggle at, is when people say, "Oh, I'm doing it to help the community, to serve the community." Well, no, the real goal is to.
We need the subscription.
Whenever you come on, like, we can't hear because it's like it's feedback. So that's why I be muting you. So I can't hear you.
I pay for a subscription because I find it valuable and I think it's something we need.
What? Black Power Media?
Yeah, I feel like it's valuable, so I pay for it. The subscription. I'm a member of it, so I feel like I pay for Jared's book because I feel like it's something that I need, that we can utilize.
Okay. And you're saying what? That he's serving the community?
I think he is, in a way, serving the community through the academic work that he put out. Now, he can give out some free books.
You can get a free PDF.
Yeah, I'm certain. What I'm saying is, I think both is happening, and I think if those who can afford it, and they can fund and help aid in giving the books or the water or whatever else out to people who need it. I'm not saying it's the answer, but I'm saying that this is what's being done even here.
I think I have to mute. I think that, we've made a lot of progress in understanding Black police officers and Black, putting just a Black person, Black cops and Black presidents and Black congressmen are not a panacea. And I hope that we eventually find out that Black businesses are in the same place as Black cops under this system, and Black politicians in this system. Black entrepreneurs should be in that category. If that's your job and you can maybe conduct yourself as an individual in a way that is not as toxic, but you're entering an institution and that has fundamental practices that are predatory and exploitative, and if maybe you can conduct yourself in a way that doesn't necessarily make you a major part of the problem, but this is an institution. Economics and the business world, you know, has certain fundamental practices that you need to sustain yourself in that. And most of those practices are predatory and exploitative.
Well, let's
So
say
the
this,
businessman hero is another myth. It's like the heroic cop or the black soldier that's going to come back to our community and teach us how to wage guerrilla warfare against the system that trained him. I think these myths need to be debunked so we can just move on to viable solutions and adaptations to this system.
I agree. I think the list is endless, however, right? So I think you gave a few examples, right? You know, but I think the list is endless. And I think that there's people who, like, for example, you all are doing media, right? And you are not the norm or what's typical in of people who are on media platforms. So again, the media, the black media is in the same way. With a black whatever, you can go on and on and on about that. But what I am saying is I will still argue that we need that black media, your form of black media. We need that form of black business, such as the black business I have. We need that form of black business, such as the one you had or the one you do have. And all this is black business, to be honest with you. But I do agree that black business and black for the most black, a lot of black businesses are out here taking advantage and exploiting the people. So that's not the argument. But at the same time, I also say that we have to be clear that we do need some institutions that can serve our people.
I agree.
And I just think we need to make that very clear, because then the people who are listening hear something else.
Well, I mean, you can't help that. Like what you were saying, people are running around misrepresenting Jared.
But you can be clear. You can do your best to be clear. You understand? That's all I'm asking. You can do your best to be clear, because we understand. Dr. Clark, one of the famous lines, he says, people will say I said what I didn't and stubbornly refuse to hear what I did say or what have you. I agree with that, but I think that, again, it's still incumbent upon us to be clear. As a psychotherapist, I understand that it's important to be clear. We can't be 100%, but we can do better.
All right, I wanna, as we start to wrap up, kind of deal with these two things as it came up. So one is, can we go back to this clear answer? The utility and the purpose of black businesses is to do what? And I know you just said majority of them are exploitive. What I say, everybody who identifies as a black business, they're into business to get profit, to make a profit, to make money. Now they can cape it or switch it to say they're serving, but like, you need to make a profit, because most of the time black businesses are paying a loan to something or someone that they need to pay back, or they need to keep the lights on, or they need to pay employees. So the ultimate goal is obviously to make money, especially in the way it's set up. But clarity, you're saying the utility of black businesses is or should be what? Dennis.
Am I saying the utility? I'm not saying nothing. You asked me a question. So what I am saying is, again, and I will say, you said keeping serving. I'm saying that what black businesses, not from this capitalistic, if a black business should exist, and I do believe that black, whatever you want to call it, how you want to use the terms of, if you want to call it a business or not, we should be in the service of our people. And just like this black business called Black Power Media needs what?
I think it goes back to this point, but finish. Business versus institutions. But go ahead.
Let me see. Difference between businesses and institutions. So just like anything you put out there, in intellectual things, such as the book that's being argued. There has to be a profit made. I get that. We're in this system. To produce it, to continuously produce it, there's going to have to be some profit made. But what I'm saying is, if we're going to do it, we should be in the service of our people. And again, I know this is not the norm. I understand this is not what's typical. But what I am saying is, if we are going to be, people say support Black business all the time. I say, I don't support Black business. I support Black businesses to support Black people. And they are many, see, again, it's not the norm, but they are businesses that literally exist on and not making much profit because they put it all out there and they struggle because they're in this system and they have to set up as a business.
How is a Black business that serves, hold on. How is a Black business that serves Black people any more worthy of acknowledgement and praise than an employee or a worker who also serves the Black community?
Good question.
How is a Black businessman or a Black entrepreneur any more of an asset or a servant to the Black community than a Black employee? Why even do we need to make that distinction? I'm muting you on purpose because of the feedback and the echo.
Distinction. I mean, if I said that, I didn't mean that, and I don't agree with it. No,
I didn't say that you said it. I was just curious because you keep talking about how business owners serve the community and sacrifice. I know people that go to work for a company that punch a clock, that sit in a cubicle, and they also take their resources and time, their extra resources and time to feed back into the community.
And sometimes they actually have more time to do it because they're not working 70 hours.
I don't know why we have so much discussions about business owners and what they can do for us when I don't really see the difference between laborers or entrepreneurs if they take their extra time and resources to feed back and to build up their communities.
But let's keep it fair, though. Let's keep it fair. The thing was, the reason why we're talking about Black businesses, because the argument is that it seems as if, not saying you say it, but to some degree it comes across that we should not have them. Again, I don't think there's an argument whether or not.
No. The same dude that said we shouldn't have Black businesses is the same dude that told you not to go to Barber College. That guy doesn't exist. Nobody said that. Nobody's advocating that you shouldn't have a business.
So Diallo, again, I acknowledge that, but I said this is what it comes across as, right? Just like it seems today that I may be saying what you just proposed as an argument, which I'm not saying, and I think that those people are also doing their best in the system. I would agree.
So maybe we all clear. The business owner is no more of a server of the people than the actual people with a job. And the business owner actually needs the people with a job.
and can exploit them. And
I mean,
and can I say this?
Yes.
As
you muted, Diallo.
Sorry. In terms of expenditure of resources, it is better to uplift and to improve the status of workers and the working class as a return on that labor than it is to advocate and lift up Black businesses. Even though you can do both, you would benefit more people creating more labor safety, more ways to fight against wage theft, fight against more worker autonomy and democratic workspaces than fighting for Black businesses, just from a numerical perspective, because like you said, the vast majority of us are on payrolls than signing checks, we receiving checks.
So you remember I said that we need to call people to the front of the room and make them read in front of the people and we have a conversation. Like, I do think we need to take a real ass time out and really struggle through social relations and order, which could be talked about with capitalism, socialism, and communism. Because I really think, as much as we know all these other things, I don't know if we have that clear And I don't know if we've actually struggled through those things because people are, I see it in the chat, but I just think in general, like, I'm not sure that we quite understand these things. And I also know we don't take a lot of time in explaining it. And maybe once you come reading and get to a certain places, maybe you live in other countries, but I think people really struggle with this idea. And then even this idea of what's the alternative, that argument normally, again, sounds like businesses got to be set up this way, or this thing has to go this way. There's no other way or whatever. And I just don't think that conversation is had like seriously. Because even now, like, if I tell people like, yo, just give me your definition of capitalism or socialism or whatever, I think we all have varying different conversations, definition around it. And then the idea about what exploitation is, being a boss or being a landlord, like we read earlier, like one could possibly or mainly see that as not being exploitative. Like, I don't know if you was on, Dennis, when we was reading the tenant says like, yo, COVID is here, but I still need my money. So why don't you go get a job somewhere else or whatever? Like that's what the landlord's saying to the renter. And most people would think, oh, well, I mean, the landlord need his money. And there's the whole concept of landlord in general, like, having that type of conversation in this environment seems like an ongoing struggle. And I don't know that we're giving enough credit to the understanding as we are trying to critique the person who's delivering the information. Because it's almost a fact that there's no way to deliver that message in a way that is going to be received well, because you're pulling at the heartstrings and things that people are emotionally connected to, as you talk about all the time, the trauma, Dennis. And I think we should have more of a collective conversation around some of these terms and how people are, emotionally connected to them. But yeah, if you got anything you want to share before we jump off, it's 3 hours. Appreciate you for coming on.
Thanks for allowing me on. I'll be honest. I thought Diallo was going to be a little more rougher. Hey,
Pause.
Diallo, you're not as rough as impertinent. No, I'm messing with you, but nonetheless.
Pause.
So I will say this: the Diallo just doesn't argue just to argue. I think if it's cogent or if it to somehow it's whatever, he's not just arguing to argue, because I thought he was going to just take the counter narrative just because. But I do agree with Brother Diallo just said. I don't know if I agree. This is what I will say is I think he makes a cogent argument. I'm not sure. I would have to consider that. I think that's important about the labor and all that. I think that he makes a really good argument there. As far as what you just said, Geechee, I would agree. One thing I will say is I think we always consider what is effective communication or even propaganda on our own point or from our own perspectives. I don't think that I think it's important. We never will get everyone right, but I do think it's important to think about how we do, because Umar does right in the opposite framework. And that's a lot to fight against, if you even want to fight against it at all. But he's very tactful, right? And I'm not saying use what we do in a way that is manipulative as Umar is doing. But what I am saying, I know it's a war in general because people want what Umar is selling. But what I'm saying is we have to be tactful because we know the odds are against us. So we do have to look at this from a scientific perspective, as you do in psychotherapy, through a trauma-informed lens, as you spoke about, Brother Geechee. And again, no, we can't be perfect. And sometimes people do need the shock as well. Some people need that Diallo shock effect, but it can't be the only way. Some people need that Jared shock effect. But, we do have to consider the way that we intervene with our people. Peace. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. All right, man. You done good. You muted, Diallo. You done good, man. You done good, son. Anything else you want to say before we get out here? Thank y'all for the people in the chat. Thank
A
you for
lot
the
we
people
didn't get
rewatching.
to.
What you say?
It's a lot we didn't get to.
What we didn't get to?
Oh, there were several comments and questions.
Oh, my bad. I'm
The
sorry.
run sheet, you're not doing that thing on the thing where
The run sheet
say
is
where
done.
we are and what we doing.
I did all that. The run sheet is done, brother.
Just be glad when Jared gets back.
All right, so it's no longer Diallo. He's out of this motherfucker. We kicked him out. He's not.
I'm
right,
happy to be gone. Anonymity. I prefer to just if you could just hear my voice and I'm not on screen, I could do
wish you
every
would have
show
gone
like
with
that.
Jared, and I would have brought Skip on in your replacement, the more rational radical. But yeah,
And you
man.
see Jared just going in that plain white shirt. If he had a gold dashiki with silk embroidery, somebody was saying he don't see that's Jared's problem.
You don't got no. You don't have.
And if
no,
he had a hair prosthetic like Steve Harvey,
It's wrong, bro.
I mean, I be trying to him and Skip Josephus. I be trying to coach these cats. I try to coach Garrett. Nobody listen to me.
Oh,
You don't queue up. It's good.
I'm just saying that's what everybody will be saying.
Garrett
But
just
anyway,
showing up in a white shirt.
I think he's probably par for the course. Like you don't know what he. I mean, it's about. I mean, I know your boy gonna be in there with his shirt, suit and tie. Derek Hamilton. So
Right, but I'm saying he need like that gold or a crown and some Coming to America chains. You know, Jared got to show up and show out, not just show up.
Well, anyway, we
in the future, just she gonna show up representing.
Today we showed up, and now we about to show out.
All right, yeah, y'all be safe out here. I'm about to venture out into this blizzard. Snow on the ground. It's ugly out here. I've been checking.
All right, Granddaddy.
Like
We'll see you later.
Snow. All right, y'all.
All right,
Next
peace.
week.